Welcome into Off the Bench. It's all smiles here in the Chatterbox Studios. Who day, baby? Who frickin' day? Last night, the Cincinnati Bengals went on a walk-off field goal over the Pittsburgh Steelers to enhance their record to 3-4, and the season is still alive off the back of Joe frickin' Flacco. 340 yards, multiple touchdowns, force-feeding Ja'Marr Chase, and kept this season alive. Man, it is awesome. I was talking to Stone, and we'll get to Stone here in a second. It's days like today where you put up with all the misery. It's days like today where everything that being a fan is all about, and you just get fired up because of, man, the Cincinnati Bengals are alive. Casey's in our window, and he's all fired up. Stone Shields, you were in Paycor Stadium yesterday. How awesome was it?
It was incredible, Reed. Everything about it. Start to finish, what a game. Number one, obviously it was incredible that they won the football game, but just everything about it. I didn't know that the city was going to be buzzing like that, to be honest. I went in there thinking that, there's going to be a lot of Steeler fans in here, and there were some Steeler fans, absolutely. But it was a whiteout. The city showed up. They were buzzing. Bengals get down early, 10-0. They never come back when they're down. 2 scores. When's the last time that happened? And then Joe Flacco, baby. Joe Flacco went crazy.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. You never take, beating the Steelers, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. And it's crazy how much a trade for a 40-year-old quarterback, journeyman quarterback in the twilight of his career, Joe Flacco. It is crazy how a trade for that player, which cost us dropping back in the draft about 40 spots, 50 spots, how much life that has breathed into this city. Last Tuesday, when we woke up in the morning and the week of NFL football had been done, all the Monday Night Football games have been played through, all that stuff. Last Tuesday, every Bengals fan was down and out. We were. 3 consecutive blowout losses. The offense looked completely inept. The defense looked terrible. Play call, everything. Just down and out. Talking about this team should try to get the first overall pick and try to get draft capital. And we get the buzz for the third time in Bengals history. We make an in-season trade for a quarterback in division. Thank you, Andrew Berry. We appreciate it. The Bengals go out and they get Joe Flacco. And the initial reaction for most people, there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of, what is this going to do? It's a lot of, it's too little, too late. But most of the fan base thought, we'll see. It was curiosity. It was just like, all right, this is interesting. We'll see what this looks like. Is he going to play on Sunday against the Green Bay Packers? He play the Steelers next Thursday. What's this look like? And from the start of the second half against the Green Bay Packers to now, completely rejuvenated this fan base. That second half against the Packers, maybe it's because they were playing the Steelers and it's a primetime game. That's why Cincinnati showed out. But I think if there was a quarter of that stadium filled with Steelers fans, no one would have batted an eye based off the way that the Bengals had been playing. But no, we didn't allow that because we saw what this offense can be with Joe Flacco in that second half. And we saw it all last night. That for once, before the year, we talked about this offense. We knew that with Joe Burrow and the weapons, that this offense not only can be one of the best offenses in the league, but can be the best offense in the league. And the Steelers' defense leaves a lot to be desired. But we know now with Joe Flacco that we can once again be that high-octane offense. We know that with Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, Andre Yoshivas, Noah Fant, Chase Brown ran for a great game, Samaje P. all the weapons that Joe Flacco has at his disposal, that this offense can fire. This offense can still win us games, keep the season afloat. And, by the way, I don't know if you heard the report from Ian Rappaport pre-game that Joe Burrow still fully intends on coming back this season, that he is progressing, that he should be back in the middle of December. We needed 2 pillars to keep this season afloat. One was win enough games when Joe comes around that we can do this thing. And the second is that Joe Burrow does, in fact, come back. And we're finding out, at least from the latter half, that still intends to be the case. Now, can Joe Flacco and the Bengals do their end of the bargain? That first drive comes up, and we're kind of moving the ball. And the Bengals are, we give up 7 points on the defensive side, and, it's 3 drops and a penalty, and you're like, oh, man, we're gonna get our butts kicked again. We go down 10-0, and you're like, oh, man, here comes the butt. We're going to get our butts kicked again. Then it just kicks into another gear. And Joe Flacco throws for 340 yards. Gets the ball, I think it was 21 targets to Jamar Chase. This sport is hilarious. Because when things work properly, when you're winning, when you're doing the right things, it seems like a simple sport. And maybe the sport is simple. You have an elite playmaker in Jamar Chase who, if he's not the best wide receiver in the league, he's the second best wide receiver. And I think that I'm not going over my skis when I say he's a top 10, top 15 player in the league, regardless of the position. What I'm saying is the sport's pretty simple. That's an elite playmaker. Get the ball in his hands. T. Higgins is an elite playmaker. Get the ball in his hands. Go under center, run the ball. Keep them honest just enough. I oftentimes make fun of the fans that complain about play calling because I think play calling is just a trite argument to complain about, which, by the way, kudos to Zac Taylor. I thought he called a fantastic game yesterday. But the reason I think it's so tired is because you could always complain about it, and you're always right. No matter the side that you are, they're either firing on all cylinders and it looks great, or you're right that they're making dumb play calls. But that same crowd, they said 2 things, which is we got to run the ball, we got to get the ball to Jamar Chase, and that's what they did. That's what they did last night. And with a backup quarterback, we put up a 30-burger on the Pittsburgh Steelers and win the game. March down the field, even after giving up a huge touchdown in the twilight of the game. You march down the field and you get the field goal. Great play by T. Higgins, and he goes down before he gets in the end zone. We put it right through the uprights, and we win the game. And the thing that is amazing about Joe Flacco, and the reason that it's so easy to get fired up as a fan outside of what he's doing on the field, is Joe Flacco is 40 years old. He's got a family. He's already established his legacy. He's probably not going to be a Hall of Famer, and there's nothing really that he can do to get over the hump there. He's made hundreds of millions of dollars playing this sport. He doesn't need to play. He doesn't need to. But it's pretty clear that his personal identity is I'm an NFL quarterback. I'm a football player, and I'm going to keep playing until no one will give me a contract. And he's having fun. The dude's all smiles. The post-game talk that he has where he's saying how involved his family is and how awesome it is to have these moments and share them, not just personally, but with his family. It is awesome to see. The dude's having a blast out there, and it brings out the kid in all of us. It reminds you of what it's like to just go out there and play and have fun, and it is awesome to see. Stone, you're fired up. But I think the thing that outside of the play, right, outside of watching Joe Flacco dice up the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, the thing that is coolest is the dude seems awesome, and he seems like he's just having a blast, all smiles, laughing on the sideline, and just you watch the post-game coverages. It's pretty cool to see Joe Flacco get to experience this once again.
Yeah, I mean, he just seems like a great guy. I mean, he's just a dad out there that happens to be a massive human being. They were talking to Zac Taylor after the game, and they were kind of walking through the play where he, took off and ran for that first down. And Zac's like, yeah, I'm looking into the pile. I assumed it was, going to be a tackle right at the line of scrimmage. And all of a sudden I see this really huge human being running down the field for a first down. And that was just there was just a shock that kind of went over the stadium as you realize, oh my goodness, that's Joe Flacco taking off with the football. But I don't think you could have asked for a better guy to come in here and try to be this person, this quarterback that helps keep this team afloat, right? We talked about all the other names, the Russell Wilsons of the world, the Jameis Winstons. Like, this guy just fits in perfectly. He's no nonsense. He's all football. He's done this before. He's just looking to come in and contribute, and you hit the nail on the head. This is a guy that just absolutely loves playing football. He's got nothing to prove. He won a ton of games in Baltimore, has won in different places there as well. Has the Super Bowl MVP. Like, he's playing because he loves this game, and I do think that, the fact that his kids are a little bit older and they get to see, dad go out there and play, I think he thinks that's pretty cool there as well. It's a genius move from Duke Tobin and Zac Taylor and all the people that made this trade. It's a complete genius move, and it's a complete boneheaded move by Andrew Berry and the Cleveland Browns. But here in Cincinnati, we will absolutely take it because, this offense – what could you have – you can't ask for anything more. When it's not Joe Burrow, like, this is as good as it gets, and it was unbelievable in the game last night.
I think Mike Tomlin might have driven up I-71 to show up at Andrew Berry's house after the waves and the quote that he had early in the week. But and the thing that's awesome, and I just brought up this point, and I want to hear your opinion on this, Stone, is the sport. It doesn't at times feel all that complicated. Joe Flacco drops back 47 times. He throws the ball 47 times. He targets in those 47 or those 45 passes. He targets T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, 33 of them. It's really at the core of this game. It's easy to see why you can be successful. Just throw the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And we saw this in real time last week against the Green Bay Packers. They struggled that entire first half, and they had no way to kind of create chemistry because Jamar Chase was out all week. Joe Flacco gets there on a Wednesday, and you saw it in real time, them kind of developing it. But here in this game, just drop back, get rid of it quickly, and throw it to either 5 or Uno, and good things happen. It's really it doesn't seem that complicated at times.
Yeah, you're totally right. When things are clicking offensively, it just looks easy, and that's how it looked with Cincinnati in the game last night. When they're in that spot where Green Bay's getting the ball back down 6, like, I was like, all right, we're gonna need to score again because Pittsburgh's gonna go score, and that's exactly what happened. But there was confidence. There was confidence in the stadium of Evan McPherson's gonna have an opportunity here. It's just a matter if he makes the kick or not. With Jake Browning, not to just sit here and bang on Jake Browning, but, or even the first half against Green Bay last week, you have no confidence that you're going to be able to get into field goal range. But it was like, okay, yep, they scored. Let's go down and kick a field goal, and we'll see if McPherson makes it. They got close. He put it through. And, just an unbelievable night in Cincinnati. And so much to unpack about the game. Obviously, I know you want to talk about the offensive line. Looked like they pushed the right buttons there. But, I think just getting the ball out of your hands quickly, that's kind of what it comes down to. I think I don't have the number right in front of me, but Joe Flacco, for the most part, was getting rid of the ball in 2.1 seconds or less. Hitting the back foot, reading it out, the ball comes out. And he only took, 1 or 2 sacks in the game there as well. So when you're playing with timing and rhythm and getting the ball out quickly and getting it to 2 of the best receivers in the game, you're going to have the ability to rack up some yards and score some points. And finally, this offense broke through in a big way, and it was great to see.
Yeah, what's amazing, and it's a true testament to what you can see. And I don't want to rip on Jake Browning at all. But in those 3 weeks that he started, if we were ever in 3rd and 7, if we were ever in 3rd and 10, or we get a holding penalty, we get a false start, we get a sack, you could pretty much write up nothing was happening this drive. Think about it. Every time you're watching Jake Browning and the Bengals offense, they get a holding penalty, they get anything, they get a loss on a run play to where it's 2nd and 12. I think we all were just like, we'll try it next time we get the ball. We're putting this one away. Every time with Joe Flacco, you felt like we could get the first down. It's 3rd and 13. It's 3rd and 10. Heck, on the drive where we punted it away to them, I was in favor. It was 3rd and 18. We ran the ball, which was the right call. But I was in favor of, hey, let's see if we can get this first down. There's 2 minutes left. They got all 3 timeouts, so they're going to have plenty of time regardless. Let's see if we can get the first down. Because I had that much confidence in Joe Flacco. I have that much confidence in this offense. I have this much confidence in our offensive line, who I don't know what it is. I know Joe Flacco's getting rid of it very quickly and not giving the defensive line an opportunity to make a play. Joe Burrow likes to extend plays. Flacco isn't in that business. He's getting rid of it quickly. And it's given our offensive line a really good opportunity to succeed. But you just have confidence. Joe Flacco's playing with confidence. Zac Taylor's play calling with confidence. Multiple times yesterday, you're going, oh, that was a pretty smart play there, Zach. And I mentioned it yesterday on yesterday's show. I mentioned it in the pregame show for the watch-along that this felt like a kitchen sink game. This kind of felt like if we have a bag of tricks, let's throw them all out there, because if you lose and fall to 2-5, the season feels done. Instead, we won. And we pulled out some plays, and we pulled some out. And it all worked, man. It all worked. And there's two things that it is incredibly encouraging to see. And it is, A, what I've already mentioned, that offensive line, that when you're getting rid of it quickly, when you're working behind the line, and Joe Flacco realizes, hey, I'm not going to get away from any sacks, so I've got to work very quickly. So play calls that even if we're trying downfield, they've got to kind of develop very quickly. We're not playing recess ball here, which Joe is very successful at playing. Joe Burrow. Flacco can't do that. So we got to play within the designed offense. And then the second thing is we're finally running the ball. Rushed for 142 yards yesterday. Chase Brown, for the first time, gets over 100 yards this season. I think we had 97 rushing yards in the first half. Chase Brown had a long of 37. Samaje Perine even, he had 7 carries for an average of 4.5. Chase Brown was averaging 9.8. There's something about playing within this designed offense, and the fact that Flacco can go under center, the fact that we are keeping them honest both in the run game and in the pass game, that it complements each other. I know I'm hitting all the hallmarks. I know I'm speaking to the choir. I know that I'm just explaining what happened, but it's simple. I mean, we're playing complementary football, and it works. And it works, man. And it's awesome. And there's not much else you can say besides that it is awesome. When we are fans, when we come here, when we put up through the losses in 2005, when Carson Palmer gets hurt in the postseason game, when we put up with the 2015 postseason game where they win on Big Ben driving right down the field after A.J. McCarron has a miraculous fourth quarter. All that pain, it sometimes, I know this isn't equal, but it pays off a little bit last night, where in front of a whited out crowd, where the stadium, Paycor, looks awesome and it's vibrant and it's loud, we get an exciting, fun game that we win. And we'll get to the defense here in a second. Before the year, we signed up for this. We did. We knew that our offense is going to be very top-heavy. Our roster is built very weirdly, where our 3 highest paid guys are 2 wide receivers and a quarterback, and everyone makes the joke, you guys construct your offense or construct your roster like a 12-year-old playing Madden, and we do. But those are our best players. Those are the guys that we drafted in, and they're our best players. What are we going to do, not pay them? Not sign them when it's time? And we were okay with it, to say, hey, this is our offense. This is our team. We're going to put up 1 billion points. We're going to give up 1 billion points. The games are going to be exciting. Hopefully we come out on the right side. Last year, we didn't come out on the right side of a lot of them. Had a losing record when we scored over 30 points. It wasn't sustainable. But last night we went 33-31. This is what we signed up for. And it's awesome. Before we get into Zac Taylor, or before we get into the season and how this unfolds and something that can get you really excited, do you have any passing thoughts on Joe Flacco just breathing new life into this city?
Everything you could possibly want, dream, ask for. I thought in the second half against Green Bay last week, that looked really, really good. And if you could just carry that over to Pittsburgh, you were going to have an opportunity where you could score a lot of points and potentially win the game. There were some favorable matchups in this game for Cincinnati, and they took advantage of them. Joe Flacco's getting a lot of the credit, and he deserves it. But, this is a team that, again, won the turnover battle 2-0, 2 huge interceptions from Battle and Turner, and weren't penalized. We're the least penalized team in the game there as well, compared to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Flacco, it's unbelievable. He's been doing it for so long. The way he reads it out, he gets it out of his hand quickly, the good decision-making. And you've talked about, how it feels like only a matter of time before maybe he makes a mistake and throws an interception, which I kind of agree with you. But, you didn't even have really one throw where you're sitting there holding your breath. There was one that was, tipped at the line, so it's maybe you get a ricochet and that gets picked off. But you're never like, oh, my goodness, what was he thinking? And that's 2 games now that he's put that together after no practice time, hardly at all. So it's unbelievable, just unbelievable what he has been able to do. And 2 huge games coming up before the bye.
Yeah, the sacks and the interceptions will come at some point. We're riding a gravy train right now. And Joe Flacco's entire career, he's taken sacks because he's not very mobile, and he throws a lot of picks because he's got a great arm and he tries to force feed it sometimes, but we haven't seen that yet. The only 2 plays that I can recall yesterday where you were worried about, is this ball going to be picked off, was that one that was tipped at the line. And then the second one was the ball that Jamar Chase didn't bring in on the quick out where he's bobbling it.
Yeah.
And in my brain, it was bobbled for a quarter of a second. And my brain, which is so traumatized from watching Steelers games of past, that all I'm thinking about, he's going to bobble his Slay's going to come right up, pick it out of the air, and go to the house. And obviously, because he bobbled that ball, Jamar Chase spun out of a tackle of Slay because Slay was going for the ball. But that was the only time. So yesterday I led off the show, maybe it was 2 days ago, talking about how this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers is a big swing game. I mentioned that if we lost, I was out. I'd flip-flopped on this show since I started hosting it millions of times because I truly didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know if I wanted the Bengals to go in the tank and try to get as high draft capital as possible, try to get as much draft capital as possible, trade Trey, just strip it all down, as I think is what I said, or if I wanted them to try and keep it afloat. And the reason I said that this was the big swing game was because if you go 2-5, the Steelers are 5-1, all of a sudden this team looks like, all right, this division's done. Ravens are 1-5. Bengals are 2-5. Steelers are 5-1. It's done. Division's done. You're not coming back from that. But if you get to 3-4, and based off of who the Bengals have coming up, based off who the Steelers have coming up, and I'll lay it on out for you, we are now 3-4. The Steelers are 4-2. And I apologize. I'm going to be talking a lot about schedules right now. We play the New York Jets next Sunday. We are 4.5-point favorites against the New York Jets, who seem like the worst team in football. There's nothing, you take nothing for granted in this sport, but you feel like you win that game. We then play the Chicago Bears a week after that. That's going to be a tough game, but it is at home. And you'll take your odds, you'll take your chances on that one over a lot of other teams in this league. So you have 2 incredibly winnable games before the bye. Out of the bye, you play the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who do the Steelers have over the next few weeks? They play the Packers, they play the Colts, and they go to the Chargers before they play us again. Those are 3 of the best teams in the league. The Packers look like true Super Bowl contenders. The Colts look like the best team in the AFC. And the Chargers, while banged up, it's Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert on the road. Those are all 3 tough games. There is an incredibly likely chance. I'm not talking pie in the sky here. I'm talking there is a very likely chance that when we play the Pittsburgh Steelers on November 16th, that the winner of that game, whether it be them, whether it be us, will be in first place in the AFC North. I'm going to say it again. When we play the Steelers on November 16th, if things kind of fall out, shake out like I kind of intend them to, even if we are 4-5 and we split the next 2 games, and they go 1-2 where they are 5-5, if we beat the Steelers on November 16th, we'd be 5-5, 2-0 over them, and we will be in first place in the AFC North. And that fires me up. For 3 weeks, we thought this team was the worst team in football, and they still might not be very good. I'm riding a high right now. This team might not be very good, but there is a very likely scenario in which when we play the Steelers next in a couple of weeks, coming off a bye, it'll be for the AFC North to take first place in the AFC North. I know that's a far ways away, Stone, but am I just riding? Am I too high right now? Am I high on a gravy train right now?
No, that's how big last night was, right? It had an opportunity to completely change the trajectory of your season. You lose last night, you're sitting there 2-5, 5-game skid. It feels like you're cooked. But the difference between 2-5 and 3-4 is astronomical. Like, that's not even close, right? 3-4 feels like you got all the life in the world. 2-5 feels like you're cooked. You're able to pull it off. Now you got to take care of business, right? This is a Bengals team that in years past, even with Joe Burrow, I've had the tendency maybe to play down to their level of competition a little bit. The Jets are going to be hungry as they got guys fighting for jobs, right? So they're going to have to, I'm sure they're, celebrated it last night, maybe enjoy it today, get their bodies right. But they got to lock in and get ready for this Jets team because you mentioned this off the air. You lose this game to the Jets, it's as significant of a feeling as winning this game last night, but obviously in reverse, as that would be, the worst feeling in the world. So it's all out in front of them now. They have an opportunity here. I mean, they've navigated. It's been a gauntlet, right? I think people lose a bit of that, attention there because of how bad they looked. But when you look at their schedule, like at Minnesota, Denver, Green Bay, Detroit, we talked about this yesterday. Like, how many of those games do you win with Joe Burrow? Like, you could go 1-3 in those games with Joe Burrow. It's just how bad they looked. And then Pittsburgh's always tough. Now you can, things open up a little bit more for you here as you have a little bit of a chance, with the Jets and the Bears going into the bye. But, can't afford any slip-ups, but have all the opportunity in the world ahead of them. And, we speculated this with Pittsburgh. They only had one loss, of course, coming into this game. And, that's a team with some flaws, right? They're going to end up, I don't see that. At most, they're going to win 11 games. But that kind of feels like a 9-10 win team due to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's going to be an opportunity here if you take care of some of the games that you should to really get back in this thing. And as you mentioned, play Pittsburgh for the lead in the division here in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, the betting lines are out, and we are 4.5-point favorites against the New York Jets coming off a extended week, coming off a mini bye, which I mean, if there's any hope to do this thing, keep it afloat, make the postseason, all that stuff, you got to be the Jets, point blank. You got to do it. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are their line against, I think they play them on Monday Night Football, the Packers at home. They're 4-point underdogs at home. So it's starting to shape up. And I mean, if I would have told you 2 days ago or 9 days ago when we made the trade for Joe Flacco that there is a likelihood in which this team can get back to 500 in its first 3 games, we all would have taken it, man. We all would have. It's incredible. It felt like this team was destined, where Zac Taylor was going to get fired and this team was going to have a top 5 pick and all that stuff. And all of a sudden we're talking about at the midpoint of the season, this team can be 500. This team can be 500. As they'll be playing Justin Fields and the New York Jets next Sunday for a chance to get back to 500, to get to 4-4. And the Ravens, who, I mean, they're getting Lamar Jackson back. They're on a bye. But they've dug themselves so deep of a hole that they've got to play near perfect, or else their season will go completely sideways. It's a really exciting time. And it stinks that we have to do it with a backup and Joe Flacco. Obviously, we'd all want Joe Burrow here, but after Joe Burrow's injury, you could ask for much more, but it was always going to kind of be like this, to where you get to this New York Jets game for the chance to go 500. And you're right about that gauntlet that they just played, where they're playing the Lions and the Packers and the Vikings and the Broncos. Most of those games on the road, to where even if Joe Burrow's here, how many of those games do you win? I mean, maybe one more. I mean, you got to think a win against. I mean, with Joe Flacco, I'd like to think that we'd beat Minnesota. With Joe Burrow, I'd like to think that we'd beat Minnesota. But going to Denver, playing Detroit and Green Bay, those are all tough games. We'd look a lot more competitive, but who knows if we get any dubs out of that. But here we are. Here we are. It is October 17th. And in a month, we could be playing for even more exciting football. But there's a lot more to do before we get there. Before we talk about Zac Taylor and kind of the kudos that I'll give to him in a city where, he gets ripped down, and rightfully so. You got to give a boy credit when he does something good. Before we get there, we got to hear a word from our sponsors. The Job Center is now hiring. Start working fast with weekly pay, flexible shifts, and great opportunities at top local employers. Apply in person at any location across 12 states or online at thejobcenter.com. Light up your events with Queen City Screens. Our cutting-edge LED video boards deliver vibrant visuals and crystal clear displays for any occasion. From concerts to corporate events, we've got you covered. Visit queencityscreens.com to rent your LED solution today. Queen City Screens, where brilliance meets impact. Stone, before we dive into Zac Taylor, any fun stories from the stadium last night? Any knockback knack stories or anything like that? No.
Honestly, nothing crazy. I mean, for a Thursday night game downtown, we get a little rambunctious, right? It's not like going to a Reds game. We all understand that. The vibe is always a little bit different at Paycor Stadium. But, yeah, up in the 300-level section. Nothing crazy, no fights that I saw. You see these videos all over social media now. Like every football game, college or pro, it seems like there's some massive fight. And maybe there was one at Paycor last night, but all the people around were good. Usually, we talk about our, how we despise the Pittsburgh Steelers, but there was several nice Pittsburgh Steelers fans that I interacted with, which doesn't always happen when you go to those stadiums and talk to opposing fans. But yeah, nothing crazy. The city behaved for the most part. There was some other stuff downtown that they weren't behaving. We won't really get into that, but yeah, I think at the game it was great atmosphere, great vibe. I was, because you talk about the stripe the jungle against the, the Lions, and then they stripe it in blue, and then you're doing this white out here, and you're like, well, there's probably going to be a lot of yellow in this white out, but it looked good. The city showed up, the fans showed up, the white out was good. The place got loud on third down, by the way, and all you could ask for. Yeah. Great night.
It's funny. I didn't know if I was ever going to get down to a game this season, but after watching that Thursday night football game, all of a sudden you start looking like, should I go to the Bears game? Should I go to the Jets game? Should I get out there? Because it breathed new life. And Zac Taylor. So he's been ripped on all across the city, and rightfully so, right? I mean, when you get completely embarrassed for 3 consecutive weeks, it's hard not to be the blunt or the brunt of or wear all the blame. But I'll give him credit where it's due. And last night I thought he called an incredible game. I thought that the play call more often than not mirrored exactly what this team needed to do. We ran at the right times. We dropped back at the right times. We took shots at the right times. There was a couple unique play calls that we hadn't seen called out before. I think there was a fake pitch play to the left that turned into a screen play to the right that got us a first down. That was a brilliant play design. I didn't know that the Joe Flacco play wasn't called. I thought that was a read option play that was just Zac getting in his bag and all those things. Everyone got on Zac's case about the challenge that he called, where we eventually we didn't get the first down, or we did get the first down a play later. But I thought in real time that the reason he called that challenge was because he was going to call a timeout anyways. So he's just throwing the flag. It all works the same. If you don't get the first down, we lose a timeout. And I thought he was going to call a timeout because he's running out of time anyway. So he just called the challenge to see if we can get it. And obviously we eventually did get it. I think we settled for 3 there after the first down. But Zac Taylor deserves a lot of credit today. He deserves a lot of credit if he had anything to do with bringing in Joe Flacco and beating the drum that we need a new quarterback in here. And he called a really nice game. And this team, I gave them credit back in week 2. I gave Zac credit that it seems like his teams always fight. Obviously, for the next 3 weeks, they had showed no fight whatsoever, so I'm not going to go there. But it's pretty clear that that team was fired up yesterday. And when you win a big divisional game as a major underdog against your heated rival with a backup quarterback against a Hall of Fame quarterback, you deserve credit. And that's where I'm going to give Zac Taylor credit today. Thought he called a great game. Your opinions on Zac Taylor's play call yesterday?
Yeah, where are all the Fire Zac Taylor people at? Are they in the chat? What are they saying today? Yeah, I thought he was incredible. The way he's handled himself throughout the streak. Obviously, it's unacceptable to show up and play the way they did the past few weeks. But they needed it this week, and they were ready to go. And they fell behind early, but they stuck together. And, this is a locker room and this is a team that's a tight-knit group, and there's no finger pointing. There's no, quitting on, your teammates and going off on them in the media. Like, this is a team that continued to believe even in the darkest of times. And I think that's a direct reflection of the head coach. But beyond that, there was a couple of plays. Our knock on Zac is always like, it's so vanilla, it's so boring. Like, what are you doing? There was a couple of plays where, we're rolling out Joe Flacco and we got a wide open guy, on the boundary, and it's like, okay, that's schemed up. That's a great call there from Zac Taylor. So he was pushing all the right buttons. Interested to get your thoughts on the offensive line, as we haven't really specifically talked about that, but I think clearly he pushed the right buttons with the guys to put out there. And there was some more creativity in the offense, and obviously a stress to get the ball in the hands of 5 and 1, and he did a tremendous job of that. And, if you're going to sit here and rip them apart when you lose, you better give them credit when your team wins and you're more disciplined and you're more buttoned up, and that's what Cincinnati was. I keep saying Green Bay. Pittsburgh made more penalties in the game, committed more penalties in the game than Cincinnati. Right, the Bengals were a very disciplined football team in this game as well, and a clean football team. And obviously a lot of that's the quarterback, but also a lot of that's head coach as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the offensive line, and there was a lot of talk, a lot of chatter about who was going to start at guard, because for the first time, all 4 guards that we had on this roster were going to be healthy, and they had all 4 played at some capacity this year. Lucas Patrick, Jalen Rivers, Dylan Fairchild, and Dalton Reisner. And it was my opinion, based off the way that Dalton Reisner pass blocked against the Green Bay Packers, that he should have gotten the start. And, me and Craig were doing the pregame show, and I think Charlie Goldsmith put out that we were going to start both rookies, Dylan Fairchild and Jalen Rivers, and everyone's just like, oh, what? What are we doing here? Based off the way that Reisner had played, where we're gonna start the rookies? And I made the take at the time. I said, it's a wait and see thing. I'm not gonna kill, because I'm not in practice every day. I'm not at the field. I'm not at Paycor Stadium at the practice facility. I'm not anywhere. I'm not around these guys all the time to where I can judge like that's a terrible decision. Yeah, I've seen them play live, but I'm not with them day to day. So if that's what they thought was the best course of action, of course that did not happen. Dalton Reisner ended up playing left guard for the entire game. All 5 guys on the line played every single snap. Jalen Rivers started at right guard and played every single snap. And it's pretty clear that Flacco's game hides some of the deficiencies with this offensive line. The getting rid of it quickly, going under center, running the ball more and more effectively hide some of the deficiencies from this offensive line. It's clear as day, because we have now gone up against 2 of the better pass rushing attacks with Joe Flacco. And what was the joke everyone made when we traded for Joe Flacco? Oh, this dude's going to get murdered. It's going to be elder abuse. They're going to get after him because Jake Browning got sacked many a times. Joe Burrow gets sacked many a times every single game. They were like, oh, man, Joe Flacco can't move. And we're going to put him back there, and he's going to get hit every single time. And here we go up against the Green Bay Packers, who have a great pass rush. Here we go up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a great pass rush. And they kind of did not play a factor in it at all. There's a couple sacks last night. There was 1 sack in the Green Bay Packers game. But for the most part, this offensive line held up. Because we're not asking them to hold up for 5 seconds, 6 seconds. We're saying, hey, can you put a hit on a guy for a couple seconds? Can you give Joe just enough time to read the field, just barely, and he'll deliver a strike wherever it needs to go? The first read, maybe a second read, all right, we'll get rid of it. Yeah, we're going to move. It was funny that we did move Joe Flacco out of the pocket, and we know he's immobile, but you don't really notice it until you see him move outside of the pocket. And it's like he's got a lot of room. Then all of a sudden he's moving like 2 yards and he gets rid of it because he just can't move that well. But it's pretty clear that the game plan, the way that Joe plays, the way that Zac Taylor is orchestrating this game helps our offensive line, which is the biggest hole on this offense. We have plenty of weapons. We have pretty good running backs. Like the offensive line is the one thing that can put a thorn in the side of this offense, or if Jake Browning starts to quarterback again. You like that? So it's really comforting to see that we know that, hey, this is going to be, you could go ahead and bake in pretty much a sack every drive, which is what we had seen for Joe Burrow for years. It's pretty comforting to see that this line is playing better with Joe Flacco just by the style of play. So that's my opinion on the way that the offensive line performed. And for the first time all year, we mentioned Chase Brown, 100-plus yards. There were holes for him. It wasn't just him. He was getting met behind the line when Joe Burrow was back there, like the first few weeks. And I don't know if it's Joe Flacco. I don't know if it's the line playing better. I don't know if it just takes time for Zac Taylor to realize what he has. This team always plays its best football towards the end of the year. You get into October, you get into November, you get into December. For whatever reason, this offense looks inept every September. And I don't know why that is. I truly don't. I can't pin why it is. But it's pretty clear that as the season goes on, this offense gets ticking and ticking and ticking, and soon it's downhill. It's that cartoon snowball running downhill. All right. We're here in the final 20 minutes, and it's been positive talk about Zac Taylor, Joe Flacco, how this Bengals team is still in it. There is one thing that we do need to talk about now, and it's this defense. And this defense did exactly what we asked for them to do, which is, can you get us a couple turnovers? They got 2 turnovers. They picked off Aaron Rodgers twice, which I don't know what the heck Aaron Rodgers was doing on either one of those plays. That pass to DK Metcalf was terrible. The second one was a great play by DJ Turner. Was a great play by DJ Turner, which, by the way, out of everyone on this defense, DJ Turner is balling out. And he's played his best 2 games in his career this last 2 weeks. But this defense is still pretty inept. Without Trey Hendrickson, the pass rush is non-existent. The first touchdown pass that Aaron Rodgers threw, he had the ball for 7 seconds. That can't happen. That can't happen. And I get that we were without our best pass rusher. But the guys that we had, the trio of guys that we had rushing Aaron Rodgers yesterday from the edge, 2 of them are first-round picks. One of them is a third-round pick. Myles Murphy, Shamar Stewart, and Joseph Asai. And point blank, we need to see better out of them. We do. We need to get more of a pass rush if this defense is going to do anything. I do like some of the guys in the secondary. DJ Turner has played fantastic. Dax Hill's playing better. Geno Stone leaves a lot to be desired. Cam Taylor-Britt was a healthy scratch, which we'll get into that. We're starting 2 rookie linebackers. We're playing a trio that involves 2 rookies and Logan Wilson, who Logan Wilson I don't think played well yesterday, but he did have a big play. But if this team is, we got a couple easier games if you look at the grand scheme of the schedule, at home against the Bears and the Jets. But after that, it gets really tough. Going on the road in Pittsburgh, playing the Ravens twice, playing the Bills once. This defense is going to need to generate some sort of a pass rusher. Guys like Lamar Jackson, we got no shot against. Guys like Josh Allen, we got no shot against. Stone, your overall opinion of how the defense played yesterday?
Yeah, great game, obviously, and lots of reason to be excited. But, yeah, without Trey Hendrickson, I mean, that was no sacks in the game, only 2 TFLs for Cincinnati. Like you mentioned, you've allocated top-of-the-line resources to that. We're not going to quit on Shamar Stewart yet. He was coming back from injury, but he was a non-factor in the game. Myles Murphy continues to be a non-factor. And those guys had opportunities to make plays. And mind you, this isn't like an all-world offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers either. Like, they've struggled, and that was kind of the knock here for Pittsburgh. It's like, okay, you got Aaron Rodgers, and he's old, but, like, are you going to be able to protect him? And, you know, obviously he gets rid of the ball really quickly, but he's taken some shots. Certainly did not take any last night. It's a Steelers team that was one of the worst teams in the league at running the football, and they ran the football really well with Jaylen Warren there in the game. So that obviously is a concern. But at the same time, that's kind of where we thought we would be with this team. Like, if Joe Burrow was playing right now, we'd be like, yeah, that would be the weakness of the team. We wouldn't be able to get any pass rush on the quarterback when it wasn't Trey Hendrickson, and you'd have some, issues with your safeties on the back end of your defense. So it shouldn't surprise anyone, but that's bad. That's really, really bad. And now if you can continue to score 30-plus points with Joe Flacco, you might be able to get away with it. But that I don't know what the fix is for that, because there was a couple situations where Al Golden sent the blitz, but then the blitz can't even get close to coming home either. And then you're just like, then you got a guy running wide open. So I don't think that's necessarily the answer, but they have to figure out a way to somehow get pressure on him. And I think, we talk about keeping this season afloat. I think a big factor in determining whether or not that's not going to happen is if Trey Hendrickson is out there or not, and how serious this injury is for him, because they missed him bad last night.
Yeah, they did. There was several times where it felt like, man, if Trey was out there, he'd get a big sack for us right now. He would come up with a big play there. And also, when you put pressure on a quarterback, obviously it makes him rush his decision, or he makes a bad throw. You can get a tip. We've seen that already with Trey a few times this year. And the solution, at least in my brain, is we've got to be more effective when we do decide to blitz. You mentioned Al Golden a few times last night, did bring the blitz, and it still just felt inept, which if you're not getting any pressure on the blitz, that's a blown-up play. It's a blown-up play. You're putting your secondary at a disadvantage, and your one advantage is we're going to have numbers on the line, and you still can't get home quick enough. Now, Aaron is obviously a veteran QB, and when you blitz, similar to the way Joe Flacco is, when you blitz against Joe Flacco, he seems to read it very, very well. But if we're not going to get any pressure by sending 4 guys, then we've got to send more at certain times. We've got to time it up well, and we've got to be successful when we do it. Because our secondary, I think we've got, like I said, DJ Turner's played fantastic. Dax Hill has played very, very well. I even like what I see from the rookies. Like Demetrius Knight didn't play well last night, but he still seems to be a solid piece, a solid linebacker that you can build around. Barrett Carter was in on a couple plays. But we can't leave those secondary guys out on an island. We can't expect them to defend for 8 seconds. And if that's the kind of pass rush we're going to get with 4, then we've got to send 5 or 6. And say, all right, well, you're not going to get 8 seconds. You might get 3. I will say this about Joseph Asai. Joseph Asai doesn't get home a whole lot, doesn't win the pass rush a whole lot. But he is in on a lot of plays. He feels almost like a Sam Hubbard. Just watching live, I don't have the grades in front of me. I don't know how many tackles he had. But it feels like every time that there's a rush to the perimeter, he's in on the play, which I'll give him credit for. It does feel like you see his name pop up a whole lot. When's the last time you're like, oh, Miles Murphy, nice play? Very rarely, if ever. Does it happen? Shamar Stewart, there was a couple times where he did win the pass rush, and he just can't get it home. He can't get it home. We flush Aaron Rodgers out, which we did a couple of times where we flushed Aaron Rodgers out of the pocket. But then he just spun around, and then he had more time, 3 or 4 more seconds. But as Stone says, as you guys know, as I know, if we're going to beat teams like the Baltimore Ravens, if we're going to beat teams like the Buffalo Bills, which that's a month away, and we'll worry about that when we get there. Let's worry about beating the Jets and the Bears and then the Steelers again. But if we want to be competitive against the more skilled teams in our conference, then we've got to be able to rush the passer better. Got to be able to get back there. Got to be able to get home and put a little pressure. And especially even in the games that we do have coming up, we're playing a Justin Fields who looks completely lost. Being able to put pressure on him gets you in a good position. We're playing a team like a quarterback like Caleb Williams, who's still young and green. You put pressure on him, you make him feel uncomfortable. You give your defense an opportunity to make big plays and get those turnovers. We know that this team is never going to be a top 10 defense in the league. We're not asking them to. We are asking them to be slightly better than they've been because we know without Joe Burrow, this team's at a deficiency. But can we continue to do what we did last night, which is, can we get 2 turnovers a game? Can we get those turnovers and then, like they did yesterday, turn them into points? Can we do that? That's how we beat the Jags. Got a couple turnovers, took points off the board for them, and put points on the board for us. That's what we did last night. We took points off the board for them, got points for us. And even though we're giving up 30 points, we've got to be able to get the ball a few times. Am I wrong? You're at the stadium. Am I giving too much credit to Joseph Ossai? I feel like he's in on a lot of plays. I know he doesn't win the pass rush. It feels almost like a Sam Hubbard kind of player. Does he get credit for that, or am I wrong?
No, you might be onto something there. It's tough to give him a ton of credit just because how inept the players are around him, right? Like if you had, let's say you had Trey Hendrickson and then Shamar Stewart could develop into a Trey Hendrickson type of player, and then you have two really good pass rushers, then I think you would really think Ossai is great. But I think just what they're asking him to do, like when Trey Hendrickson's not out there, they're asking him to be that guy. Right. And with Stewart, of course, being a rookie, to be that guy to go, chase down the quarterback and get sacks. I've been hard on Joseph Ossai for a long time. They gave him the one-year prove-it deal, $7.5 million this year. I thought, they should have parted ways. But I think based on the way he's playing into a sizable contract. He's not going to, get some crazy deal, but he's going to get, a 3-4 year deal with the team based on the performance that he's put out there to this point. So I think he needs some more help around him. But, I'll hand up accountability. He's been a lot better than I expected him to be.
Speaking of players being a lot better than you expect him to be, what about DJ Turner, man? Juan Drago Turner II with the best 2 games of his career, of his young career. That interception where he pulled it out of his hands, the dude's playing at a level that other than Trey Hendrickson, I haven't seen any defensive player play at as high of a level as DJ Turner in years. Since we were true Super Bowl contenders 4 years ago, guys like Jesse Bates and Awuzie. DJ Turner is playing absolutely out of his mind, and I hope it continues. I hope they continue to build off of what DJ Turner is able to bring to the field. The 5 passes deflected last week, the interception this week, and a couple other deflections. DJ Turner looks to be what you expected Cam Taylor to grow into. And I don't know what has happened with these 3 pieces of the defense that we felt pretty confident going forward in Logan Wilson and Cam Taylor-Britt and Jordan Battle. They've all taken a massive step back. But in that same breath, we are seeing DJ Turner take a massive step forward. And it's truly awesome to see. To where when the ball's thrown in DJ Turner's way, when it's thrown his way, you feel confident that he's going to come up with a play. Either deflecting the pass or knocking him up and getting in the wide receiver's face. He's, without a doubt, our best defensive player when Trey Hendrickson's not out there. Without a doubt. Which I don't think anybody would have guessed before the season. If you would have asked players, who's going to be our best defensive player this year, sans Trey Hendrickson, there had been answers like, oh, well, maybe Shamar Stewart steps up, and he's having a great year. Or, Cam Taylor-Britt gets back to form. Or Jordan Battle keeps moving forward. No, it's DJ Turner at this point. It's DJ Turner. And without him, I don't know what this secondary has, to be quite honest. Dax Hill has played well. Dax Hill has played well at corner. But, man, what a tremendous 2-game stretch, and I hope he continues. Did he come back into the game after he got hurt? He went out with cramps.
Yeah, Turner?
Turner came back. He came back. I'm getting their snap count right now. And DJ Turner played 98 snaps. So, yeah, he came right back out on the field after that cramp. I know he went into the locker room, and he came back out. It's big plays. Big-time player there.
And, Reed, we talk about, with this defense not having, the optimism that there's somebody that you drafted that's a younger player that you could see being like a cornerstone guy for this defense. Well, in 2 games, don't look now, but here comes DJ Turner. He could be that guy. Like, could he become a lockdown guy for you in this league? Like, I don't – like, you watch him these past 2 weeks, and it's not like he's getting lucky. Like, he's all over these guys, at the point of attack. His ball skills are great. I mean, that interception was ridiculous. So, if he can become a guy that is a dude for you, then you might have something there, because I think you and I both think if Dax Hill can stay healthy, you have a little something there with him. So, a couple of weeks ago, we were just sitting here like, oh, there's nobody to even build around because all these draft picks are just meh. Well, if Turner continues to play like this, he might be one of those guys.
Real Spiller Cat also put in some stats. Jordan Battle's stats from yesterday. Jordan Battle did play well.
He did. Yeah, he needed that after the week prior.
Yep, he had 5 tackles, 3 solo, and a couple of pass deflections, and he had that interception, obviously, which I still don't even know what Aaron Rodgers was doing on that play. Man, I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan. I don't know if that's ever been brought up on this show. I know some people like Aaron. What were you going to say, Sto?
Well, I just wanted to ask you, and I told you this off the air, you're one of the reasons that I went to the game was obviously, it was a big game for Cincinnati, Bengals, Steelers, primetime, whatever, but I had never seen Aaron Rodgers in person. And I, wanted to check that off before he's no longer playing, and it was amazing. Some of those throws, man.
Yeah,
they look great, huh?
He slings that pill.
Oh my goodness! And even the Hail Mary, that 70 yards in the air, and I'm sitting there like, oh my goodness, we're gonna lose. And then just a perfect Hail Mary throw. The one that was ripped on 3rd and long over the middle for the touchdown, their final touchdown. To Freiermuth was just a beautiful throw. So say what you want about Aaron Rodgers. I know you don't like him, and that's okay. But, even at this age, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's between Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers, all the quarterbacks that we've seen play into their 40s, the names that come up in your mind are like Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. I don't remember any of them. Obviously, I don't remember. I think Joe Montana played into his 40s. Dan Marino, I think, played into his 40s. I don't remember those guys. Those guys are before my time. But I don't remember 40-plus-year-old quarterbacks throw the ball as well as Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco do. Like Peyton Manning at the end of his career, a lot of ducks. Yeah. A lot of ducks. Tom Brady didn't have the arm strength. Drew Brees really never had the arm strength, even at his prime. He was still delivering a good, accurate ball, and he was still really good. But I don't remember the velocity coming off and the spiral that you see with Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers, 2 of the better throwers of the ball that this sport has ever seen. And, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is in terms of just pure football watching, it's pretty. It's pretty. The back foot throws, and it just seems so simple. It's pretty to watch. Guy's exhausting as a human being, but it's very, very pretty to watch. Stone Shield Show coming up here at 11 o'clock. You got a teaser for us?
Well, obviously, we got to unpack the game. You did a beautiful job of that. But, when you have a game like that, it's better be close to 2 hours of Cincinnati Bengals coverage. We've been waiting, for this. And I think there's a lot of people, myself included, that question whether or not we would get this the moment Joe Burrow went down. It took a few weeks. It wasn't pretty. But we got to this point where you saw why, that's why they paid T. Higgins. That's why they paid Jamar Chase. That's why they allocated all that money offensively. That kind of finally showed, and Jamar alluded to that after the game. That was great to see. We'll unpack everything from my perspective, some takeaways. We'll look ahead, obviously, as you did as well, to the rest of the schedule. And, of course, our weekly college football weekend preview. We do it every Friday, one of my favorite parts of the week.
Football.
Say it again?
Love me some college football.
Yeah, well, you need to he's being sarcastic for those of you out there that don't know that. And we're working on Reed here. He, for whatever reason, he does not appreciate and respect college football. But college football's never been better. There's never been more parity. It's a 12-team playoff, and he somehow can't get on board. But we'll discuss that at a later day. And then we'll have our best bets of the weekend there as well. And I know you were happy with how the game turned out. Did you end up going plus 5.5, or did you just send it? Money line.
The former.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was a little scared, but
yeah, me too. They're giving you 5.5 points. Take it.
Right. It's I got to ask you a question as someone who was in the stadium, and this is how we'll end the show. And I want to see how if you're a different fan than me. Did you ever, at the end of that game, between the field goal, before we kicked the field goal, or before the Hail Mary, were you thinking like, did you ever feel like we were winning this game? Or I like before we kicked the field goal, all I could think about was something's going to go bad. Something's going to go bad here on this field goal kick. I was not confident at all. And maybe that's just a defense mechanism of just being like, man, I just get ready because this might hurt like a you know what. And then the Hail Mary, the ball's in the air, and you're just like, oh, someone please deflect this. Someone please deflect this. Someone please deflect this.
Yeah. No, I definitely did not have a lot of confidence. When we were up 6 there at the end, I turned to my buddy and I said, well, we better at least cover. we better cover. So that's kind of was the vibe there, even when we were up 6 at that point, because you're thinking, oh, they're going to score, and then what if you throw a pick 6, and then there you go. You don't even cover from that perspective. But I had all the faith in the world, as I mentioned earlier in the show, that Flacco was going to move the ball and get the Bengals into field goal range. And from there, was Evan McPherson going to be able to execute? And Evan McPherson, by the way, needed that game. We haven't even mentioned his name on the show, I don't think. He was 4 for 4 on field goals. A couple of those, I think one was 50 or close to 50. That was a clutch performance from Evan McPherson, and he really needed one of those too. Obviously, he had the issues 2 years ago, and then last year he flat out lost you several games. With some missed kicks late in ball games, and you haven't really asked him to do much. Like, I get he missed 2 against Green Bay, but I don't view those as big time pressure kicks that he missed. And of course, the one was 67 yards. He was perfect in the game. Hit all the extra points, 4 for 4 on the field goals. He needed that to be really big in those big moments, because that's what we expected from Evan McPherson. If you go back to his rookie year, it was just get it over the 50-yard line, get in range, and he'll bang it through. And he was arguably, the guy that got it over the top in the game for Cincinnati. So that was great to see from Evan McPherson there. But I was concerned. It's just like, well, you're going to have all this production, and then they're going to break your hearts with a missed kick, a botched snap, something crazy, a block, right? Pittsburgh, of course, notorious for doing that. But, yeah, they were able to pull it out.
Yeah. They were able to pull it out. And you know what? I was going to give college football a chance. Yeah. I really was. So I pulled it on up. I pulled up the scores of the games that are going to be happening. And I'm like, hey, we're here in the Midwest. Let's see how the Big Ten's doing.
The Big Ten's not good. Let's
see how the Big Ten's doing. And I'll look at the ranked games. We got Ohio State playing a big Big Ten game this week against Wisconsin. Guess what that spread is?
30, 28, 27?
25.5. Indiana playing Michigan State. Guess what that spread is?
Why are you picking on the bad games?
These are the best teams in the conference.
No,
these are the ranked
why are you
teams.
picking Big Ten?
Indiana.
How about SEC, LSU at
we're the
noon,
Midwest.
high noon, ranked matchup?
We're in the Midwest. I'm a big Big Ten guy. So Indiana against Michigan State, that spread's 28.5. This sport rocks. Oregon playing Rutgers, 18-point spread. That should be a close one. Oh, we do have a ranked matchup. USC's playing Notre Dame. That's a 10-point spread. This sport is awesome. Stone Shield's coming up right now.
Oh, here we go on a Friday. It is the Stone Shield Show, and I am Stone Shields. The Cincinnati Bengals pull off a huge 33-31 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday Night Football. Rough morning for the Fire Zac Taylor people out there in the city of Cincinnati and the rest of the country there for that matter as well. Rough morning for those folks, but a fantastic morning for the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cincinnati Bengals fan base. Joe Flacco, is he the greatest quarterback of all time? The jury is still out there on that, but what a performance from Joe Flacco. My goodness. Literally flawless in the game. He's been here for 9 days, folks, and he was dicing apart Mike Tomlin's defense. And that's a good unit, too, by the way. Like, this isn't like, the Ravens defense this year, right, where it's like, oh, the Baltimore Ravens are supposed to be this proud defensive football team, but in reality, they just kind of stink. No, that's not the situation here with Pittsburgh. They've got some dudes out there, and they've played well in the season leading up to this game, but they were absolutely exposed by Zac Taylor, by Joe Flacco, and most importantly, of course, Ja'Marr Chase, as he has a game for the ages. I mean, just what he was able to do on the field. I mean, how many targets did he have in the football game? 23 targets in the football game, hauled in 16 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown. And mind you, it wasn't like it was all the deep ball, right? His longest reception was 18 yards for an average of 10.1, but there's plenty to unpack with the football game. The excitement that the season is back on, right? I mean, that was kind of the idea coming into this game, right? Because 3-4 and 2-5, like, I get that's technically a one-game difference, but that doesn't feel like a difference whatsoever, right? I mean, it feels like a massive difference when you're talking about 2-5 and 3-4. Like, that is just not even close to the same thing here. And the Bengals obviously are in a really great spot as they go. They were looking 2-5 directly in the face, and they spin it around, and they are 3-4. Huge win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. In this game. Plenty to unpack. We'll talk offense. We'll talk defense. We'll talk Joe Flacco. We'll talk Zac Taylor. We'll talk Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, DJ Turner, Chase Brown in the run game. We'll talk Aaron Rodgers there, of course, as well. But plenty of stuff to unpack in the game. Unbelievable. Cincinnati pulls off a huge win as 5.5-point underdogs at home, 33-31. Also, we have our college football weekend preview. We do it every Friday here at the show. It's probably my favorite segment of the week. We'll go through the best games of the weekend. We'll preview all of them. And to close out today's show on a Friday, like we always do, best bets of the weekend. 4-1 last week, looking to build off that this week. And I have 6 plays out there this week. But Cincinnati wins 33-31, and just so many good things that you saw in the game, right? You go down 10 points really, really early in the football game. Aaron Rodgers, he scores right away, and then you're not able to necessarily get anything going there offensively. You got to punt it, right? And then quickly you look up and you're down 10-0, and it's, oh my goodness, here we go. Are we going to get ambushed again? And then the offense really just opened up, and it was tremendous. Ja'Marr Chase is the best wide receiver in the National Football League. There really is no discussion here at this point. And Joe Flacco did a masterful job at getting into football. What he's been able to accomplish here for Cincinnati, he's been here for 9 days. And he's just, it looks like he's been here all offseason, all preseason, and all the season to this point. Like, it's just, he's fitting in perfectly with this team. And you hear about the reports like Ja'Marr, he was sick, obviously, before the Green Bay game. And he was talking like, yeah, I got like about 12 reps with Joe, as in Joe Flacco. And then this week on a short week, Thursday Night Football, it's a lot of walk-through stuff, a lot of jog-through stuff, not, high intensity, high speed, full speed, route running. And, they're literally learning on the fly here with Joe Flacco, and he's doing a tremendous job in the process. He's getting rid of the ball very, very quickly. I believe the majority of his throws, he's getting out in 2.1 seconds or less. He's catching the snap, or he's under center, he's dropping back, he's hitting his back foot, and he's playing with incredible timing and incredible rhythm here on this offense. And that was something, obviously, Jake Browning really, really struggled with. And we don't want to make this, the Bengal and Jake Browning show, right, because I think we need to focus on how great Joe Flacco is. But it's clear how important the position is. Right, and if you have a guy that is competent and is playing with confidence and is believing what he's seeing versus a guy that doesn't, the differences are drastic. Like, keep in mind, this is the same team that Jake Browning was operating with, that same one that Joe Flacco is operating with, and clearly it looks totally, totally different. But Flacco was sensational in the ball game. only took 2 sacks, I believe, in the game. And we'll talk about the offensive line here in a second. But 31 of 47, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And that was something that, they made the trade for Flacco. And it's like, well, he's still going to throw some interceptions, right? He's not going to do a tremendous job at taking care of the football. Well, he's yet to turn the football over in these 2 games against the Packers and the Steelers against some really good defenses. And he's done a tremendous job of that. And, watching the games, he's not even putting it in harm's way either. Right? Even sometimes with Joe Burrow, he makes a decision, and you're like, oh, I was maybe a little bit too aggressive there, Joe. But, Flacco's not doing that. Anytime he throws the ball, it's either in a position where his receiver can get it or, it's incomplete. He's not putting it in harm's way whatsoever, and that's been tremendous. There's been, there's one, I think, that was batted down. There's a deflection, and that, maybe worries you a little bit, right, that could get picked off. But he's doing a tremendous job taking care of the football. And just the poise that he has, in the pocket, right? His heartbeat is just flat. It's not spiking whatsoever. He's cool as a cucumber, and he's always been like this, by the way. I remember that kind of being frustrating when you're playing those Baltimore Ravens teams, right? And it's just like, you can't rattle this guy. And that's still the same here. Now in 2025 as a 40-year-old man, really is hard to believe that he is, playing at this level and he can just pick up and, do it right away. And the Bengals deserve so much credit for making this move, and we'll talk about the Cleveland side of this in a second. But, we all ran through the options of the potential guys that they could trade for, the Russell Wilsons of the world, the Jameis Winstons of the world, Drew Lock, right, was the name that got floated around, Sam Howell there as well, Derek Carr out of retirement. But they couldn't have executed this any better. Again, we'll talk about the Cleveland side here in a second. But somebody that's just all football, no nonsense. He's got a great head on his shoulders, family man, right? He's not going to, say anything outlandish, humble, down-to-earth guy, just focused on playing football, and has had, obviously, tremendous success throughout his career. When Lamar took over his job in Baltimore, there were some people like, you know what, that might be it for Joe Flacco. But think about all what he has done since being the starter in Baltimore. He's bounced around. He's been a great backup. He's been a good starter when he's gotten called upon. When guys get hurt, he steps in. He plays at a high level. He's a tremendous football player. And the fact that it only took giving up a late-round pick, a day 3 pick to get him, is tremendous from Duke Tobin and Zac Taylor and company. And now those guys deserve a lot of criticism for how things have gone this season, how things went last season, the overall draft and development process. I get that. They deserve a lot of criticism. And you can make the argument they deserve a lot more criticism than they do credit. And you might be right. And you probably are right, to be completely honest with you. But this trade was masterful work from the Cincinnati Bengals to only give up the pick in which they did. I was talking to Reed this morning. It's like, based on how he's playing, I may have given up a 4th-round pick, for Joe Flacco, based on, the level in which he is playing. It has been sensational. And then, of course, you have the Cleveland side of this. And this is just Cleveland, man. It's just Cleveland to a T. They cannot do anything right on the football field, off the football field. It's just Cleveland, man. It's just Cleveland. And it is just a disgusting franchise. They're a disgrace. They're an embarrassment, right? It's bad. They started this guy in week 1. They named him their week 1 starter. He started multiple games as their quarterback, and they said, oh, yeah, we'll take a day 3 pick and we'll just trade him to a division rival. That is everybody needs to be sending a Christmas card to Andrew Berry, maybe a couple of presents there as well, because, that is just a gift, a total gift, that when the Bengals were in this spot, such a dire spot, you just gave them stability and only needed a 3rd-round pick in order to do it. That is just Cleveland to a T. But, we're not going to sit here and, just, completely bang on Cleveland. We're just going to be appreciative of how this transpired because it clearly is working out in favor of Cincinnati, and Duke Tobin and company deserve a lot of credit for pulling it off, and now we're, essentially reaping the benefits of it on the football field. Finally had a run game in this game there as well. Chase Brown, 11 carries, 108 yards, average of 9.8 yards per carry. Had the long of 37. I believe his long was 13 coming into this ball game. That was great to see, right? Oh, a balanced attack offensively. Look what that can do for you when it comes to picking up first downs, moving the football, and scoring points. Yeah, it really helps. We speculated that it would be kind of a 50-50 split in the backfield. Wasn't quite that way, but Samaje Perine, 7 carries, 31 yards, 4.4 carry. I thought he was good in the game as well. Thought he did a great job in pass protection. So that run game really started to open up some things for you offensively and in the passing game, and that's something you've been starving for all season long here to this point. And obviously Jamar, 16, 161, touchdown, 23 targets, unbelievable. T was sensational in the ball game, 6 for 96 and a touchdown. And the one over the middle that he scored on, incredible. I mean, he found another gear there when he took off and just split like 3 defenders and got in the end zone. People give T. Higgins a lot of credit for being, a big receiver and high point in the football, but he's got some wheels too, and he hit that gap and he hit it hard, and he got in the end zone in a hurry, and that was a sensational play. And whenever Jamar has a game like he did, you always have to look at the other side and see T over there working, because if T is not over there, that does not happen. Right, Jamar was in some favorable spots there, and the Steelers had a lot of belief in Jalen Ramsey, and Jamar made him pay, in the game. He clearly won that matchup. Obviously, he had some safety help there over the top, but when they're in situations where they have to worry about T as well, and that puts Jamar in some borderline favorable matchups, he's going to go out there and win. And obviously, Joe Flacco recognized that he needed to get him the football early and often. 16 receptions for him, just absolutely magnificent in the game. Yoshi. I was hard on Yoshi throughout the week. He had the 3 drops last week and then the drop early in this game, and you're like, oh my goodness, 4 drops in these 2 games. In the span of 5 quarters, like, what in the world is going on? And then what did Joe Flacco do? He trusted him there in that spot. I don't remember if that was late 3rd quarter or early 4th. 3rd and long, hangs in there in the pocket, guy in his face, T's doubled, Jamar's doubled. Let's go to the guy that's had the drop issues over the past 2 games, and just a beautiful ball right down the middle, deep shot to Yoshivas, and he hauls it in, and that was one of the biggest plays in the game. So that was unbelievable from Yoshi. Kind of, there were some people in the crowd that were, cheering when he caught, the ball, just because, the kind of a sarcastic cheer after all the drops. But, credit to him, and the coaching staff continued to believe in him and put him out there. I was sitting there saying, let's get Tinsley in there as that 3rd receiver. Zac Taylor, Dan Pitcher, they opted not to do that. They trusted Yoshi, and he had an incredible catch there, 3 catches for 49 yards in the game. And again, if you got T. Higgins, you got Jamar Chase, and that 3rd guy is the guy you have to be worried about too, look out, because then, really the entirety of your offense is coming here at that point. And also want to give a lot of love to Evan McPherson. Nobody really is talking about him and his performance in this game. 4 field goals, huge, made all his extra points. McPherson obviously struggled immensely last year, and I think you could, the defense obviously was bad, but you could point the finger at Evan McPherson for several of those losses last year, or a couple of those losses, I should say. And, the year prior to that, he was not very good there as well. And this was a big year for Evan McPherson. And here to this point, he hasn't really been tested, right? Like, has he had like a longer type kick that is a huge pressure kick that he needed to go out there and make? Didn't really have him in this year coming up to this point. He missed the 2 last week. Again, the 67-yarder, he made it the first time. You're going to pick on a guy for missing the 67-yarder? And then the 57-yarder at the end of the game. It's like the game was pretty much lost at that point when Green Bay went and kicked the field goal of their own right. So I wasn't worried about McPherson coming into this game, but at the same time, he needed to execute, and he needed to execute in a big way, and he was sensational in this ball game, and a big reason why they were able to win the ball game. And, you're kind of holding your breath there. When they kicked that last field goal, it's like, all right, like, this is Evan McPherson's opportunity to show us that he is back. And, obviously a shorter field goal was at 35 yards or something, and he puts it through, and a tremendous kick, and he deserves a lot of credit for that in the game as well. Also, look, I'm just a fan like everyone else is, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some elite ball knower, right? That isn't the case. I'm just a fan. But there was people blowing up my phone, people on social media, and people at the stadium that couldn't believe it when T. Higgins slid at the 5 on that last drive. Well, if you had an issue with that, you don't know ball, right? Because that is just brilliant decision-making from T. Higgins, and it's brilliant coaching from Zac Taylor. And Zac said after the game, they talked that over on the sideline. I believe he told Fant, and Fant told it to the huddle. Just tremendous, right? Because if you get in the end zone, yeah, we're all celebrating, we're playing the song, we're saying "Hoo Day," but Aaron Rodgers is coming down the field to win the game, right? The key there was to not get the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands. Tremendous job from T. Higgins. Jamar applauded him after the game, and he was like, yeah. Because they asked him, like, would you have struggled to slide down? And he was like, no, I wouldn't have struggled. And they were like, why? And it's like, well, if you want to win the game, you get down in that spot. So that was tremendous coaching and tremendous decision-making there from T. Higgins. And, again, like, if you were upset about that, then you just don't know what you're watching. And that's okay. But, that was a brilliant decision by T. Higgins to do that. And that was obviously a huge decision in the football game. T. Higgins was brilliant in this game. And, again, as I talked about, when Jamar gets unlocked like that, there's a reason. And it's because Five's doing his thing there on the other side. So, offensively, so many good things happened in the game. We talked about the Green Bay game last week, and that's why we had so much confidence that Cincinnati was going to win this game and perform well on the offensive side of the football, is because what you saw in the second half against the Packers at Lambeau Field. And it's like you got some favorable matchups here against this Pittsburgh team. Obviously, they've got some dudes there on defense. It's a tough unit. You've got a suspect offensive line. But there was reason to believe that you'd be able to move the football in this game. I thought Zac Taylor, his play calling was tremendous. Look, the knock on Zac Taylor, and rightfully so, is his play style and his offense is too vanilla and it's not creative enough. That was not the case here in this game. There was a couple of plays, and I can't remember the last time I've seen this, honestly, where, it's like, oh, we get Joe Flacco rolling out, and we got a wide-open guy here for 15 yards. Like, that's scheme. That's design. That's good play calling there from Zac Taylor. That happened a couple of times. Some of the run game stuff was a little bit more different, and it wasn't just, oh, we'll get under center I formation, turn around, and run it up the middle. It was a little bit more advanced than just that. And, I thought Zac Taylor deserved a lot of credit. Now, I know there's some people out there saying it's one game, like, relax. I hear you, right? Zac can't go and lose to the Jets next week. He's got to keep this going, but I just commend him for being able to keep this team, keep this locker room together, have them ready to play on a short week. And, turnovers and penalties, I think, in a lot of ways can be a reflection on your head coach. Bengals, since Joe Flacco's been the starter, have not turned the football over. Obviously, he deserves a lot of credit for that. Zac Taylor's not out there on the field, but, that's a message throughout the week, understanding that, hey, how important it is for us to win the turnover battle, stressing it to guys on defense. And, that was huge. And then penalties, right? I mean, that was always been the one thing Zac Taylor's been able to hang his hat on with this team, is usually they're pretty disciplined and they're not very penalized. And then, there was a couple of games, the Denver game, of course, where there was penalties galore for Cincinnati. Past 2 weeks, that has been really cleaned up, and Zac deserves a lot of credit for that. So, happy for him that he was able to pull off this win, but he's got to continue to build off it. His team has to continue to be ready to go. And you're in a spot here against the Jets. I get they're winless, but for now. But it's an NFL team, right? And, even if they beat Carolina and have one win, like, they're going to be starving to come into your place and, make a statement as guys are playing and coaching for their job. So, and Reed brought this up on Off the Bench. As good as this feels now for Cincinnati, it could feel equally as bad if you lose next week to the Jets. And they have to win. They need to win that game against New York at home. The momentum that you have, it has to happen. And, we'll see ultimately if they are able to do that. Offensive line, best they've looked all year, right? Best they've looked all year. And who would have thought all the conversations that we had on this show, when I was talking about the Bengals elsewhere there as well, is, what are they going to do at those guard spots, right? You drafted the guy, you got the one guy in free agency, but it wasn't like a big-time get. Like, what are you going to do? Well, it looks like, so far, after one game, the best interior guys might be Dalton Risner and Jalen Rivers. Who would have thought that was the rookie that you would go out there and he would be your guy, your fifth-round pick out of Miami. He was great in the game. Risner was great in the game, right? Remember, you signed him, and then, he had the bad game, and then he's not playing. And then, with the injuries that you had, he's in the lineup. And he was awesome in the game. And Orlando Brown Jr. finally was like, okay, like, you actually played a football game. And, like, I was there, so, maybe there was a couple where he had some really bad reps. But, like, there's always been plays in the previous games this year where it's just like, dude, like, you're not moving. You aren't good. You're a cone out there. But you didn't really have those moments for him. Mims playing through the injury. He deserves a lot of credit there as well. Karras hung in there. He struggled. to this point. So we'll see if it was a fluke. Maybe it was, right? But, yeah, it's a good front for Pittsburgh, and we'll see if Cincinnati is going to be able to, hang on there with this offensive line. Now, Zac did say after the game that they didn't go with Fairchild because, he missed the game last week, was hurt, did practice this week, but it's a short week. It's not high-speed stuff. It's basically, glorified walkthroughs in a lot of ways for Thursday Night Football, and they didn't want to send Fairchild out there against that front based on being out the previous week and then just kind of on a short week. And then Lucas Patrick obviously was available to go, and he was your week 1 starter, and Zac said he still has faith in Lucas Patrick. But now you have some options along the offensive line, which I think is a good thing, right? For the most part, it's been like, oh, we've got these 5 guys out there, and these guys aren't any good, and then if one of them get hurt, then we're going to be even worse. Doesn't really feel like that after this game. Now, again, could very well be a fluke, right? Because you've had awful games along the offensive line for every game, literally, really, in my opinion, besides this one. But they did a tremendous job against that front. Reisner, great. Rivers, your 5th rounder. I was super high on Fairchild, but, I get he was hurt. But Rivers, how about him? He was tremendous there in the game. So very promising from an offensive line perspective. The run blocking was better, obviously. Chase Brown had a nice game. And, that's the Cincinnati Bengals that we are accustomed to seeing. Remember, this was a team that was supposed to be able to win on offense. Like, that's how they were going to win games. And that's the blueprint for this team over the course of the next 5+ years with the core in which they have. They're going to win with offense and hopefully play well enough on defense. That is their identity. And when that's your identity and you're not scoring points for a 4-week stretch, right, until the second half of the Green Bay game and garbage time of the Detroit game, that's a real problem where you can't even, live up to your identity and you're trying to be this different team. Like, no, that's the Cincinnati Bengals. They want to be flirting. Look, it's the NFL. They're not going to score 30 points a week. I understand that. But it's a high-octane offense. You run a lot of plays, score the football, kick field goals, score touchdowns. Like, that's their identity right there. And it was finally good to see them get to that, right? Because we literally haven't seen it yet in this season, right? Through 7 weeks, that was the first time that we saw that. And, it's frustrating. It obviously took that long, but that is this Cincinnati Bengals team. That is their DNA. And if you have a trigger man in Joe Flacco that is capable and competent and can get the ball to his playmakers, and you have Zac Taylor settle into a bit of a rhythm as a play caller, and now you have a run game, and now your offensive line's getting better, this thing can really open up for you, as you turn the page to your rest of your schedule, which we will do in a second. But do want to talk about the defense, and we'll start with the positives here. And of course, that was the 2 turnovers. But then we'll have a bit of a reality check here for the defense, because obviously that was that was not good on the defensive side of the football. But big reason you won the game because you won the turnover battle, right? Turnovers and penalties. You check both those boxes, you win the game at home against the division rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. By the way, we talked about, the trend that a home team in an AFC North Thursday Night Football matchup has not lost since 2015, and that continued, obviously, last night with Cincinnati's win. Sometimes the trends, you just got to ride them, and for whatever reason, away teams in the AFC North on Thursday night are, really, really struggling to pick up victories. DJ Turner, mentioned this on Off the Bench. When we were evaluating this defense, over the course of the past few weeks, it's like, yeah, they're playing better than they did last year, but it's like, who's that guy, that draft pick that you have that you look at and say, oh, that's a cornerstone piece. We can build around him. We can count on him. We can rely on him. And there really wasn't that guy. You couldn't do it, right? The only guy was Trey Hendrickson. It's like, well, he's not even going to be here next year. That guy might be DJ Turner, right? DJ Turner, sometimes things just click in this league. Obviously he's had some bumps and bruises, right? This is a guy that got beat out, remember, last year in camp, coming into the year. It's like, oh, it's DJ Turner and Dax Hill, as Dax Hill made the transition from safety to corner. And, DJ got beat out, right? And then, he was in the game. He was obviously still playing in some games last year. And then he started to play really good. And then he broke his clavicle in that game, that primetime game against the Chargers. And then it's like, you know what? He's hurt. Dax is hurt. Unfortunate. You kind of forget about him a little bit, right? Because it's not like he had put together this long stretch of great play prior to that. And then in camp, there were the stories about DJ Turner in camp. He doesn't look good. He's getting beat. You get these highlights of T and Jamar making plays, Joe Burrow throwing the ball, and it was always on 20 seemingly. He could be a stud, right? And he's playing with some serious confidence right now. And as I mentioned, it's not fluky stuff. here with Turner. Like, it's not like, oh, he just happens to be in the right place at the right time. No, like, he is on these guys defending like white on rice. The ball skills are unbelievable. The speed has looked tremendous for him there as well. And, I'm not going to call him a budding superstar yet, but these have been the 2 best games of his career. He's been sensational. That interception, I mean, insane. Absolutely insane. He bullies DK Metcalf. That guy doesn't get bullied, and he rips the ball away from him and somehow gets both feet down. I thought it was incomplete initially, and it's like, oh, my goodness, I think he caught that football before he fell down out of bounds. He did. Tremendous play. Absolutely tremendous play from DJ Turner, and I'm excited about him, right? Because if that's a guy that you can put on the best wide receiver on the other team, and you feel good about him locking him down and getting some PBUs, maybe getting an interception or 2. I mean, that's really big-time stuff there for DJ Turner, and plenty of reason to be excited. It doesn't feel like a fluke. I get it's only been 2 weeks, but he's just everywhere. He flies around. He's got great speed, great awareness, good tackler really there as well. So, maybe he's a budding superstar, and that would be huge because he was a top-of-the-line resource. I believe he was a second-round pick. Like, they, needed him to come in here and be solid. And if he can be a star for you, look out. Dax Hill, he got beat a couple of times. Dax Hill's good. There's some people picking on Dax Hill. Dax Hill's your next, maybe it's DJ Turner, right? Maybe he's now your second-best player on your defense behind Henderson. But if it's not him, it's Dax Hill, right? I mean, you're playing DB. You're going to get beat some. It's the nature of doing it, right? Dax Hill is a really good player, and, hopefully he can continue to stay healthy for this team. All right, let's get to the bad parts here. 33-31 victory. It's all optimism. It's all positivity, as it should be. But that pass rush is non-existent for Cincinnati. And we kind of knew this going into the year, right? That's why it was so critical to get Trey Hendrickson back. It wasn't a long-term deal, which I think was the right call by Cincinnati because look now, he's hurt, and it's a back injury. That's an older guy injury, right? So it looked like Cincinnati, at least for now, kind of got that right. That was the concern. He's getting up there in age, 30 years of age. Didn't want to give him, guarantees beyond this year. He's hurt. He misses a game. It's a hip. It's a back. That's an older player type of injury. It can linger, so maybe Cincinnati made the right call there. But without him, I mean, my goodness, the pass rush is just absolutely non-existent. And, we were worried about that, right? Because, Aaron Rodgers, you give him time. I don't care. He's 41 years old. He's going to dime you up. We said that yesterday on the show. And that's what happened. Aaron Rodgers was unbelievable in the game, apart from the 2 picks. And the one wasn't his fault. It was just DJ Turner making an absurd play. But with all that being said, I mean, you do have to understand that unit has to be better if this team wants to hang around, if this team wants to be competitive. Because if you give quarterbacks at this level, the professional level, and maybe even Justin Fields next week, right? If you give Fields that level of time, and Fields is a really bad quarterback and does not deserve probably to be the starter, right? But if you give him all that time, he might look pretty good, right? To be honest with you. So that's got to get fixed. Shamar Stewart's, we hadn't seen him since the Week 2 game against Jacksonville. 17th overall, rookie, right? The Bengals needed him to come in here and have a big game, and he wasn't able to do anything. Is it because of, the ankle? Was it still bothering him? I don't know, but was it the inexperience still? It was only his 3rd NFL game, maybe, but I've got reason to believe he'll be better, but he didn't do anything in this game at all. He didn't help you out whatsoever. Myles Murphy, what did he do? Nothing, right? He didn't do anything. Cam Sample, who I like, but it's like that's not his. Like, he's not going to come in and be that guy for you. Like, he's a rotational guy at best, right? And I do believe he actually had one of the 2 TFLs in the game for Cincinnati. And then outside, we talked about him. He deserves credit, right? And I said this on Off the Bench. He's been a solid player for you this year. He's on the 1-year, $7.5 million deal, prove-it deal. I said publicly that I thought Cincinnati would have been the best move to move off of him and kind of search for new answers in that area. They give him the prove-it deal. He's going to get a contract next year with the team. He's done enough to deserve one. He's not going to, get some crazy deal, but, a pass rusher that's young and has some ability to get in the backfield, like, he's going to get paid a good contract. So I do give him credit for that. But when you need him to be that guy, he can't be that guy, right? Like, if Shamar Stewart can be like, I mean, not necessarily at the level of Trey Hendrickson, but be that type of player, and then Osai's your 3rd guy, he'd be great at that. But they're asking him to be the one right now when it comes to getting to the passer, and that's just not him, right? It's just not. And I don't think it ever will be. So I don't know. They've got some questions there on the interior. Are they going to try some new stuff out? Slayton, he's been solid, right? He's clearly been an upgrade over what you had at the position last year. Maybe we're hoping for a little bit more because there's no real interior pass rush there. It's more of just a run stopper guy. Same with Jenkins. He's gotten in the backfield in recent weeks. I believe it was the Minnesota game where it's like, he found his way in the backfield. That could be positive. McKinley Jackson, by the way, he was your third-round pick last year. He continues to be a healthy scratch. It's obviously a red flag, obviously not a good sign. Maybe you try to work him in to the lineup in some capacity, but without Trey Hendrickson, it just ain't there. That's a problem because they're not going to be able to hang around and be a formidable defense if they don't have any pass rush. And like Al Golden a few times in the game there as well, he tried to send pressure, and they send 5 guys, and they don't even get close to getting home there either. Right, so it's like, well, then you can't blitz because then you're going to have a guy running wide open, and when you have Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback on the other team, he's going to make you pay. So that's the biggest concern is that if you play like that without Trey Hendrickson from a defensive line pass rush perspective, that's a serious issue. And Pittsburgh was one of the worst teams at running the football in the league, not as bad as Cincinnati, of course, coming into the game, and Jalen Warren was exceptional in the game. He was bursting off big runs from start to finish in that game, and they probably would have exposed it a little bit more had you not come from behind and taken that lead. You had 2 10-point leads at 2 different points of the game, and if you weren't in that spot, and it was a spot where Pittsburgh maybe had a 7-point lead for longer than what they had their lead early in the game, they probably would have leaned on the run a little bit more, and that would have been problematic for Cincinnati because you weren't stopping the run there whatsoever. So serious questions there, along the defensive line. I don't know how it gets fixed. I don't know. You just bring in give McKinley Jackson a chance. Cedric Johnson, he's been on IR. He was your 6th-round pick a couple of years ago. And, I believe in him, but he's never really had an opportunity there. So we'll see. They got to find ways to, maybe some more stunts or games that you play there along the defensive line, but something's got to switch because that was just – it was unacceptable. It was unacceptable, and Aaron Rodgers absolutely picked you apart in that department. Linebacker, you saw Logan Wilson get some more reps out there with the defense, which is the right call by Zac Taylor. They had made the full change there in the Green Bay game last week. I thought that was like too much. Like, come on, chill out with that. That's fine. You want to get Barrett Carter more time, but let's not completely sub out Logan Wilson here. And Logan was still playing on special teams, and Barrett probably don't have the snap counts here, but it felt like he was probably out there a little bit more. But they gave Logan Wilson an opportunity there, and I think that was the right call for them. Demetrius Knight made some big plays there from a linebacker spot, and, of course, you covered well. Geno Stone had some big hits, but he was bad again in the game. We said he was – I said he should have been cut after last year, and they did not. They restructured his contract, and they continued to try to start him there at that strong safety spot. But his thing, right, even when he's bad in coverage, the whole thing about Geno Stone is, you bring him into the box, and he's a sure tackler, and that's what makes him a good safety. Multiple missed tackles in the game last night as well, and just kind of a lack of, I don't know, I'm not going to say a lack of physicality because he did have a couple big hits, but it's just like you got to make those plays, if you're starting in this league. And, he's had an opportunity. He's been out there a lot for, the Bengals these past few years, and he hasn't been very good. Jordan Battle needed that bounce-back game. He was bad in Green Bay. The team continued to trust him. And he had that huge interception in the game. Mistake by Aaron Rodgers, but Jordan Battle was there to make him pay. He was sensational in the game there as well. And, we'll see if this defense can improve off of that. But have to find a way to generate more pass rush. Hopefully Trey Hendrickson can play. But, yeah, just that has to get better because that wasn't even close. And speaking of Aaron Rodgers, I was at the game last night, and that was the reason why I was at the game because I've never seen Aaron Rodgers play in person, and I wanted to see that before he retired. Say what you want about Aaron Rodgers off the field. Obviously, he's weird, a little weird, right? I mean, yeah, he's weird. Let's not beat around the bush here. He doesn't talk to his family, estranged from his family. Like, that's what are we doing there? Like, people, as Reed alluded to, like you have people he was in relationships with that are saying that he's an awful person. Whatever, right? I'm not in the business of getting involved with that kind of stuff. All I know is when he's out there on the football field, he is unbelievable. And, the best thrower of the football that I've ever seen in my life, in my opinion, the best one to ever play the game, and he still got it in that arm. Obviously, he can't move around the same, but, I mean, it felt like this was going to be his last year, but if they protect him, he can play another year because, I mean, cerebrally, he's there. I mean, he just has all the answers at all times. Those throws that he made, like it was, I mean, I despise the Pittsburgh Steelers, but seeing him make those throws, man, were just awesome, right? They're just awesome throws that Aaron Rodgers made. And he's still, like, he's 41, and, like, just his athleticism within the pocket and how he moves within the pocket. And then when he spins out, he still looks like he's really good. And I said this, right, on the show. I was like, Pittsburgh's going to be a heck of a lot better this year because they have a quarterback. People laughed at me and said, oh, Aaron Rodgers, he's 41, he's washed, all this. He could still play, and he was tremendous in the game last night. Had the 2 turnovers. The one wasn't really his fault, just a sensational play from DJ Turner. But Pittsburgh's still going to be a threat. They have a tough schedule ahead, but they're still, I view them as a 10-win team probably, maybe a 9-win team. But he's going to continue to win games for him if he's healthy, and he was great. And that was just so awesome to see, right? Just to see him play. I mean, that was unbelievable what he was able to do. And the Hail Mary, as well. You kick the field goal, and then it's like you got people like, all right, we're going to go beat traffic. It's like, do you know who the quarterback is over there, right? And one, it's the Bengals, right? It ain't over until it's over. And do you know Aaron Rodgers over there, the king of throwing Hail Marys? And it was just insane to see him spin out of the pocket to his left, run into it, and it was 70 yards. Just a beautiful throw, and the stadium, when the ball went up in the air, just kind of went silent. It was just an incredible moment as the ball was just soaring through the air, 70 yards, perfect trajectory, and comes down perfectly. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, are they going to catch this? But then you get it batted away by, I believe it was DJ Ivey. It was a great play by him, and you win the football game. But just to see Aaron Rodgers play, that was incredible. Absolutely incredible to see him out there. As you turn the page for the Bengals going forward, you got 2 games here. I said 2-1 going into the bye. It needed to happen. Now you're in the driver's seat of that happening, and you don't want to look past the Jets, obviously. NFL team, they're going to be starving for a win. But 3-0 now really becomes a serious possibility for you. And you got the Jets at home, and you need to win. And, there's a confidence and a swagger that this team has now. And it's amazing how quickly things can turn in this league after a big-time performance on primetime, and that's where Cincinnati's at right now. We'll spend plenty of time in the future kind of going through the schedule and, exactly what, things look like here at this point. But unbelievable win. Unbelievable win for the Cincinnati Bengals, and a great day to be living here in the city of Cincinnati. Bengals win 33-31. All right, arguably my favorite part of the week, our college football weekend preview. Several games here. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games that we're going to touch on here. Then we'll have our best bets of the weekend as well. On today's show, college football continues to deliver on a weekly basis, and more ranked games this week, and a couple of good games tonight, by the way, as well. Not going to talk about any of those games, but Miami is in action, right? Teams or people around the country believe that's one of the best teams in the country. I believe they're 13.5-point favorites against Louisville, but Louisville's only had the 1 loss. So that's a good game. And then Belichick's in action against Cal. Cal's actually solid. I love watching them play. They got a true freshman quarterback that's unbelievable. And Belichick 8.5-point dogs in that game. So, we'll see how they play. That's a late game, 10:30 there here on a Friday night. But let's start with the noon game, LSU at Vanderbilt. This is an awesome college football game. Awesome college football game. Vandy, of course, has the 1 loss. It was to Alabama on the road. LSU also has the 1 loss, and it was on the road against Ole Miss. Vanderbilt, 2.5-point favorites in the game. Vandy is coming off a bye, so they had the Alabama game, and then they had an opportunity to get healthy and kind of transition here after the bye week into this game. LSU, they were my pick to win the national championship before the year. Offensively, they have struggled, but that defense, Blake Baker, their new defensive coordinator, he has done a tremendous job. If you remember LSU teams of years past with Jaden Daniels and even last year with Nuss, those defenses stunk, right? And it was like, well, they're going to have to score a bunch of points this year to be good. I thought they were going to be able to do it. They're not scoring a lot of points. That defense is one of the best in the country. They have done an unbelievable job. And the question is, can Vanderbilt score? Vanderbilt moved the ball well against Alabama. They had some turnovers in the red zone that cost them. But I'm not quite sure they're going to be able to move the ball that effectively against this LSU defense. Delane, the safety, is tremendous. Whit Weeks, the linebacker, it's a good front four there as well. They're playing physical. And it's still a good team. I think maybe they're starting to turn the page a little bit offensively, and that could open up some things for them going forward. Nuss is a little bit beat up, right? He had the abdomen injury early. I think he's got an ankle now. I viewed him to be the best quarterback in college football coming into the year. He hasn't been able to live up to that. Has had some injuries and just some other issues, but I'm still holding on to some hope that at some point he's going to break out here and look like a really good quarterback. And we'll see if he's able to do it. Clark Lee, of course, has done a tremendous job as the head coach of Vandy. We talked about him being a potential James Franklin replacement at Penn State. He's been really good. And, Pavia is a gamer, right? He's an absolute gamer. The RPO stuff works. He's accurate with the football. He doesn't have the best-looking throwing motion in the world, but it works, and you got to give him a lot of credit for that. And we'll see. My gut tells me that Vandy's not going to be able to score enough in this game. But then again, the LSU offense has not been good at all this year, and we'll see if they're able to respond. It's Vandy. It'll be a nice crowd there, right? Because you always talk about the SEC, like Vandy in years past, like nobody shows up to their games. You're starting to see more people show up with Pavia. It's not going to be some crazy environment that they have to play in, but that's at noon, and that just really sets the table for an unbelievable day of college football. We will revisit this game for the best bets of the weekend. Washington at Michigan also at noon. It's the big noon game on Fox. It's an unranked game, but I did want to touch on it because, there's going to be like that fourth team that makes the playoff for the Big Ten probably, right? And I think, this game really it's important to see, I think because the team that wins this game could have a path to the college football playoff as kind of that fourth team in the Big Ten. Last week, Washington looked elite on the offensive side of the football. Damon Williams. I think it's still a solid team. Ohio State made them look really, really bad, but that's what Ohio State does. They make teams look bad. And, they only scored, 6 points in the game or something absurd for Washington. But Damon Williams, Jed Fish, they've got some playmakers there. Denzel Boston is tremendous. Jonah Coleman, the running back there. So, I think they're going to find a way to score some points in this game. They are 4.5-point dogs, by the way, on the road at the Big House. And this is a big game for Michigan after they got kind of punched in the mouth and kind of beat at their own game against USC. It's a Michigan team that's predicated on doing all the little things right, being tough, tackling well, not having penalties, running the football, right? And, they struggled with that a lot this year. They gave up 6 yards per carry in the game against USC last week. That is their most since their TCU loss in the college football playoff in 2022. So Michigan, their interior, they're built upon not letting you run the football, and USC was really able to assert their dominance on Michigan, and that was kind of a surprise to see, to be honest with you. Justice Haynes, his status is up in the air. He's one of the best, if not the best, running backs in the country, so that is massive. And, we'll see what he's able to do. But it's a massive game, massive college football game. Yeah, it's unranked versus unranked. But, there's a path to the playoff for the winner of this game. And it's a big game for Michigan at home against a solid opponent coming in. And we'll see what they're able to do in this game. Not going to pick I would say you're just going to stay away from this game. It did open at 9.5, and now it's all the way down to 4.5. So lots of money coming in on the Washington Huskies. All right, now you could make an argument. Several of these are games of the day, but Ole Miss and Georgia, tremendous, right? Ole Miss is undefeated. Georgia has the one loss to Alabama. Ole Miss is ranked 5 in the AP poll. Georgia is ranked number 9. Georgia's 7.5-point favorites at home in between the hedges in Athens. This game opened at 9.5. Ole Miss, I had them a lot lower in my rankings than the AP poll did. I barely had them inside the top 10. They beat Washington State by 3 last week. Washington State is not good. That was kind of a, trap game to a T, right, for Lane Kiffin and his team. And Lane Kiffin's teams in the past have kind of had issues, with trap games in this spot, but they were able to escape and get a victory. Trinidad Chambliss, he needs to play better than he did last week. He struggled against Washington State. He's got to play a lot better than that against Kirby in this defense. Georgia's had some issues starting off strong offensively, right? They only scored 20 against Auburn, but that's a good Auburn defense. They're on the road. But Georgia, it's not the same Georgia of old. I still believe they can, win the national title. I do believe that. But they're last in the SEC in quarterback pressure rate, which that's not Georgia at all, right? They're known for big, ferocious guys getting after the quarterback and really being physical and being a real presence there defensively. And they've not done that this year, and we'll see if that gets cleaned up at all against Ole Miss. Ole Miss, of course, beat Georgia last year with Jackson Dart. We don't really know what Ole Miss is, to be honest with you, and I just feel like they're getting overrated here at this point. Their resume is all because they beat LSU. And I know I picked LSU to win the national title, but we don't really know how good LSU is. They could go into Vandy and lose, right? They could, go 8-4. Like that's a real possibility for them. So I need Ole Miss to show something for me. There's a reason why it's more than a touchdown spread in this game. Stockton, I think, has been playing solid. Really, that Tennessee game, he was tremendous. And, it's Kirby. He's the best coach in the country. They don't lose at home, right? The fact that Alabama went in there and beat them early in the year says a lot about that Crimson Tide group. Nobody really comes into Athens and wins. And, I'm not going to pick this game, but my lean would be Georgia minus the 7.5 in this football game. I just think, they need this game. They're playing with some more, desperation, I guess, with the one loss already. And it's at home, and it's big, it's important. And I think, Ole Miss is borderline a little bit fraudulent, to be honest with you, in my opinion. All right, to USC and Notre Dame in South Bend. Another ranked matchup, 20 USC, 13 Notre Dame. Notre Dame 9.5-point favorites. 13.5 is what it opened up at. Look, USC coming off a very emotional win at home against Michigan, right? In my opinion, the biggest win of Lincoln Riley's career as the head coach at USC. Both these teams can score. All right, Maava can get it going there with that USC offense, and certainly C.J. Carr is really, really good too. I've said, people have kind of written off Notre Dame because of the 2 losses. Well, they lost to 2 of the best teams in the country. This Notre Dame team is really, really good. I have my concerns defensively for this group, and USC might be able to score a lot of points on them. There's very good possibility that this could be a shootout here in this game. USC is a good offense, number 1 in yards per play. And, that's, this Notre Dame defense has been weak. We certainly saw it against A&M. We'll see if Marcus Freeman has made some adjustments to kind of help with that. Notre Dame, by the way, did lose their starting center. Obviously, that is very, very significant. But USC's run defense is not good. And with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price there as well for Notre Dame, I think they're going to be able to run it. I think they're going to be able to throw it. I think that's why you see the spread be as high as it is. The question here for me, Notre Dame's going to score a lot of points in this game. Can USC keep up with that and enough to, cover the spread here? I think Notre Dame's going to win this game, and I think you really need to start talking about Notre Dame as a college football playoff team if they do. But Lincoln Riley, this is the best his team has looked. Yeah, they do have the 1 loss. It was to Illinois on the road by a couple of points. It happens, right? But if they win this, if they go Michigan and Notre Dame back-to-back weeks, that would be very, very significant for Lincoln Riley. I'm staying away from him. The public, by the way, is all over USC in this game. I'll probably stay away, but I do think Notre Dame does win this football game. Alabama and Tennessee, 3rd Saturday in October. This matchup never disappoints, especially here in recent years. Tennessee hasn't won at Bryant-Denny Stadium since 2003. That is 10 straight defeats at BDS for Tennessee when they're playing the Alabama Crimson Tide. We've talked about it at length with Kalen DeBoer. He's just navigating a gauntlet right now. That is exactly what he is doing. 4th game in a row against a top 20 opponent, I believe a top 16 opponent as well. Tennessee's 11 here. Bama is 6. According to the AP poll, opened at 12.5. 8.5 now is the spread in favor of the Crimson Tide. But Tennessee has, one of the worst. They do have the worst pass defense in the SEC. And Alabama, of course, has the best passing attack in the country. So you would think that Alabama is going to be able to score a lot of points in this game. I think it's, it comes down to the defensive line of Tennessee. Are they going to be able to apply any pressure on Ty Simpson? It's an offensive line for Alabama that really has kind of, done some good things and has gotten better each and every week for them. And, I think there's a good chance it's a shootout, to be honest with you. We've seen shootouts in the past with these 2 teams. And to me, that's kind of what it feels like. Because Aguilar and those boys, they can score. And Heupel has, I'm not going to say he has Alabama's number, right? He's beat him twice. But he's got a really good feel in this game against Alabama and his play calling. He's always these past 3 years, even losing the one 2 years ago at Bryant-Denny Stadium when Nick Saban was the coach, he's got a really good feel for this matchup. And, I'm not going to sit there and say that this rivalry is completely turning in favor of Tennessee, but I think if they win this game, you have to have that discussion, right? Because DeBoer obviously lost to him last year. Again, Heupel, he's got a good feel. His play calling is really good. His team always seems like they play the best. It's like their best game of the year is when they play Alabama, and we'll see if that holds true again here. But again, not at Neyland Stadium. It's at Bryant-Denny, and that's a whole different thing you got to sit here and deal with. And it's a night game too, third Saturday in October. Like Tennessee, Alabama, smoke them if you got them. Like it's incredible. It's one of my favorite games of the year in college football, and super excited for that game. Stay away from the number. I think the over-under, by the way, is all the way up to 59.5. I would probably lean the over in this game. I think there's going to be a ton of points. I think it's going to be electric football. Last year, you didn't see as many points, but, Milroe, he wasn't really capable of doing that. Ty Simpson certainly is for Alabama, and, we'll see if he can go up and down the field in this game. Should be a really exciting game. I'm going to stay away from the number. 8.5's a lot. But, Bama, they're beat up, man. They really are. Jam Miller, we'll see if he's able to play, by the way. He's in concussion protocol. No Jam Miller, that's huge because Alabama couldn't run the ball a lick without him before the Georgia game. So their running game didn't really open up until they got Jam Miller back. So no Jam would be huge. Ryan Williams is banged up, right? He already had the concussion earlier in the year. He didn't even have a singular catch in the game last week against Missouri. So injuries are, a thing. But it's life in the SEC, man. They're just navigating this gauntlet. They're winning. Kalen DeBoer has this team believing. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder. They're playing with the physicality that kind of reminds you of some of the Nick Saban teams. Not going to get carried away here and say it's one of those teams. It ain't. But they're, playing with a lot of physicality, and they have a quarterback that's playing better than anybody in the country. And that, when you have that masks some holes. We talk about it here in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow all the time, right? Well, Ty Simpson's doing a lot of that. Because it's not like what Saban's doing at Ohio State where they're not really asking him to do a lot. They're asking Ty Simpson to do everything, and he's doing everything. And it's covering up some holes on this team and on this roster as well. And you have a receiving core that's starting to find themselves here and develop. Lottie Brooks, the true freshman, he's been sensational. So key to this game is can Tennessee pressure Ty Simpson? Because if they can't, they're not going to win. But if they can, there is very much an opportunity. I see it being close. And another great college football game, Bryant-Denny Stadium at night. Unbelievable. Utah and BYU, final game here that we will discuss before our bets of the weekend. Another ranked matchup. People don't really know that necessarily, maybe because it's Big 12, whatever. But 23 Utah, 3.5-point favorites on the road against 15 BYU. This is a road to the Big 12 championship. This is the road to who's the second best team in the conference behind Texas Tech. Now I know UC might have something to say about that, and that's totally fine, and we'll address that in the coming weeks. But Utah, I was really high on them. At this going into the year, I thought Utah was going to be a college football playoff team, to be completely honest with you. And, they've struggled a little bit, and they're, maybe not as good as I thought. They lost to Texas Tech. They kind of got beat up, a little bit in that game and out physical a little bit in that game. But I think they match up well. I think Dampier is playing better. The quarterback for Utah. They've got, a running attack. They ran for 120 yards last week against Arizona State. That was, intriguing, certainly. And, BYU, they're a little bit limited as far as what they can do offensively. Bear Bachmeier, true freshman quarterback, he's done a nice job, but they're relying on the spectacular, right? They've got these come from behind victories where they come back late. I don't know how sustainable that is, to be completely honest with you. I think Utah goes on the road and covers in this game, but it is not one of the best bets of the weekend. UC, of course, has to play both of these teams there as well, and they'll have a close eye on this game. It should be a really, really good college football game. By the way, this is a heated rivalry between BYU and Utah, and that should really be awesome to play out. But another incredible week in college football. It'll deliver as it always does, and certainly looking forward to talking about it next week. All right, before we get out of here on today's show, we have to do our best bets of the weekend. We do them every single week. And we have some improvement here. We're going to be honest and transparent throughout the entirety of the football season from start to finish. We went 4-1 last week. We're 13-15 on the year. So we're just looking to close that distance, get back to 500, and then certainly build from there. I've got 6 plays here this week. I've done 6 in the past. I've done 5 in the past. There's no amount, by the way, that could change every single week. Shoot, one week it could be the best bet of the weekend and just be 1. We could do 10 in one week. It could fluctuate, but I've got 6 here this week. So without further ado, let's get right into them. We previewed LSU and Vandy. I am taking the LSU Tigers plus 2.5 on the road against Vandy. Look, LSU was my national title pick coming into the year. That clearly, they're not playing at that type of level right now. But Baker, the new defensive coordinator, he's been tremendous. You went into the year thinking this LSU offense was going to be a strength and their defense was going to be the weakness. Well, it's the complete inverse. The offense is a weakness and their defense is a complete and utter strength. I just don't know if Vanderbilt's going to score enough on this defense. Look, Diego Pavia is a gamer. He's won big games. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he won. They're coming off a bye, and they're well rested. It's at home. He's going to be fired up. They just, of course, last time they played, they lost to Alabama. So they're going to be raring to go here in this game. But mind you, this is also an LSU team with 1 loss. This is a huge game for Brian Kelly here. And Nuss has been beat up, had the abdomen earlier in the year, an ankle, I believe, kind of now that he's working with. But I think they're going to make enough plays on offense. And to me, it's the LSU defense, man. They are the real deal. And we talk about Ohio State and Oklahoma and Texas, those defenses. LSU is like the next best thing. They're really, really good. And I think they're going to limit Diego Pavia in this game. I think Nuss will make enough plays. I think they're going to win outright, but I will take the plus 2.5 as our first pick here. That is at noon on Saturday. Texas Tech and Arizona State. Texas Tech -7 on the road against Arizona State. Arizona State, obviously, a playoff team last year. No Cam Scatterbo, not on that same level here this year. Levitt missed last week. He's up in the air. We'll see if he plays in this game, and I still made this pick knowing that he could very well be out there, and he could very well not be out there for Arizona State. But Texas Tech, I think, is one of the best teams in the country. What they've done, what their coach has done, what they've done, in NIL and the transfer portal. Usually you don't see a team go to the transfer portal and bring in all these guys and have a tremendous level of success. But it's working immediately here for Texas Tech. They are the real deal. They beat the crud out of Utah, and they beat the crud out of Houston, and I think they're going to do that again to Arizona State here this week. We've kind of just been riding them. Bear Morton, their quarterback, is tremendous. They have a backup in Hammond that they throw in there, and he's good too. They're good along the defensive line. They get after you. They tackle well. They do everything right. And that's not enough people are talking about Texas Tech. They are in the top 10 from a rankings perspective. I had them, I believe, at 6 this week for me. So Texas Tech -7 at Arizona State is our second play. All right, 4 NFL plays here coming at you, and this one. It sounds crazy to say out loud, but we're going to take the Cleveland Browns -2.5 at home against the Dolphins. All of the public is all over Miami in this game. It's in Cleveland. It's supposed to rain, right? It's going to be an ugly game. That's a really good Cleveland defense. I think they're going to get after Tua. I think he's going to be rushed into making some bad decisions. I don't think Miami's going to score a ton of points in this game. Neither is Cleveland, but I think it's going to be enough to win by a field goal. Dylan Gabriel gets his first win. He showed some good things that first start that you saw him. I believe it was an international game with Gabriel, and then he had Pittsburgh last week, and that's tough for a young quarterback to go in there and deal with that. But I can't believe I'm saying it. Shout out to Cleveland, of course, for sending Joe Flacco down here to Cincinnati. But I do think Cleveland covers -2.5 at home against the Dolphins. This might be my favorite pick of the week. The Chargers -1.5 at home against the Colts. Had the Colts at number 2 in my power rankings. They're a really good team. But this matchup, I think, favors the Chargers in a lot of ways. They had a big win last week to avoid a 3-game skid. I think that's going to instill some newfound confidence in this team. Herbert's going to have some success throwing the football. Ladd McConkey is tremendous. What a pick, by the way, from Jim Harbaugh to select him a couple of years ago. Quentin Johnson, of course, coming into his own. Keenan Allen, reliable third down guy. They're starting to run the ball a little bit better defensively. They're really good. Jesse Minter, by the way, going to be a head coach. Only a matter of time before he is. He's dialing it up nicely. And I think the the Colts are a really good team, and I think they're a threat, and I think they're going to win that division. And I think they're probably going to win a playoff game there as well. But it's about time they come back down to earth a little bit here. It's a really good defense. And, again, they've got a good defense too. But I just like Herbert at home in this spot. Colts traveling across the country. They're on a heater right now, and I just think it ends against the Chargers. Give me L.A. -1.5 in that game. Green Bay traveling to Arizona -6.5. I'm really high on Green Bay. Had them at 3 in my power rankings. Have them, playing in the Super Bowl. That was my prediction before. This year, Jordan Love's terrific. Great arm, can move. They've got a run game with Jacobs. He's a little banged up, but he's going to be fine and expected to go. That defense. They struggled at times, obviously, but once, Micah really kind of gets unleashed and, really starts getting after the quarterback, I think they're going to start to, really, create some turnovers defensively, and that's really going to help them. Arizona, they might be without Kyler. They might not be. It doesn't make a difference to me. 6.5. I think Green Bay probably wins this game by 10 plus. Obviously, weather not going to be a factor with Arizona. And, they can throw the football. They can run the football. It's time for them to, because I know there were some Packer fans that were frustrated with how they performed against Cincinnati and that, that game was maybe closer than it should have been considering the issues that Cincinnati had on offense in the first half. It wasn't. But I think you're really going to see Green Bay. You're going to see this game and be like, oh, yeah, that's a really good football team. And Arizona, their coach, Gannon, I'd say he's not the guy. He's just not. And I like Green Bay big in that game. And then Monday night, interesting. We're doing the same strategy that we did with the Lions-Chiefs game, right, where you look at it. And you go, how in the world are the Chiefs 2.5-point favorites in this game? And then you take it, and then it's the clearest thing ever as to why they were. You're sitting here going, how in the world is Tampa Bay plus 5.5 here in this spot against Detroit? I think this very well could be a shootout in this game, but Hutchinson might be able to get after Baker a little bit more than what Baker's had to deal with in games past here at this point. I'm going to lay the 5.5. With Detroit. And look, they've got issues there in their secondary. This very well could turn into a shootout, but I think Jared Goff, that Lions offense, prime time, that place gets loud. They can run the football. They can throw the football. They're dialing it up nicely, and Campbell will have them obviously ready to go for that football game. And I think that's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense, so let's take it. And then we're using that strategy again here this week with the Detroit Lions. So once again, 6 plays here on our show. LSU plus 2.5 at Vandy, Texas Tech -7 at Arizona State, Cleveland -2.5 at home against the Miami Dolphins, Chargers -1.5 at home against the Colts, Packers -6.5 on the road against the Cardinals, and the Lions -5.5 at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday night. 4-1 last week, looking to build off that here this week. Went a little bit over on the show today, but it was a big-time Bengals win, so, we had plenty to discuss on today's show. If you missed any of today's show, that's fine. It'll be out in podcast form later this afternoon. I will be actually later tonight working a high school football game, so that's what we got on tap here for the remainder of the evening here. Harrison will be doing that game. Ryan Day's son, by the way, playing against Harrison there at Harrison High School. So we'll be doing that. You'll have clips that'll go out on YouTube, of course, over the weekend there as well. Clips from our show here today, so be on the lookout for those. You'll see some more stuff pop up on social media as we work into next week at StoneShields_ on Twitter. At the Stone Shields is where you can find me. Find the show as well, as the show now has a Twitter page, trying to get up to 100 followers there on that. But another great week here at the show. Certainly looking forward to next week. We'll have plenty of football to discuss on Monday. Plenty more Bengals conversation there as well. But a victory Friday here in Cincinnati. Huge win against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and plenty of reason to be optimistic as this schedule kind of turns and gets a little bit easier here for the Bengals. So that will do it for the Friday edition of the Stone Shield Show. Appreciate everyone as always. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and have a great weekend, everybody.